Hey there, everyone. Tim K here to talk to you about a new production company called Team House Studios. Team House Studios is a film and TV production company committed to empowering military veterans both in front of and behind the camera. Co-founded by filmmaker Stephen Graham and former NFLer and Green Beret veteran Nate Boyer as well. Through real hands-on training, they are aiming to create an equal opportunity environment for all genders, races, and backgrounds. Now, I'll tell you that I had the beautiful privilege of being on set for Team House's first full-length feature production, a psychological thriller called The Curse of Sinchanee. I was behind-the-scenes set photographer, and it was just a beautifully made film. We were out there in western Massachusetts for the better part of a month, and I got to hang out with my bros, Rudy Reyes, Jacob Schick, our next guest, Don McAlister, and last and certainly least, Nate Boyer. While on set, I truly realized the need for veterans on these productions. All those core values that we're consistently taught in the military are absolute necessities on set. And that's exactly what Team House Studios is setting out to accomplish. Check them out on Instagram at Team House Studios, and you can also find the Curse of Sinchanee on Instagram as well. Stephen Graham and Nate Boyer are on Instagram, Facebook, and I will set up some links there in the introduction so that you can access all this information. But our next guest was on that set, and boy, we had an absolutely incredible time. Tough days, long nights, but we got it done, and I'm really proud of that. To Nate and Steven, I'll say that you both should be extremely proud of yourselves. You did what very few can do, and you set out to film a feature-length film in about a month, and you got it done, and now on to post-production. The creation of Mac's Man Cave, started by Command Sergeant Major Donald McAlister, who is the guest on this podcast, was built on the realization of the need for an outlet of a lifetime of experience through both Mac and the guests that will be coming on his show. Throughout a career of both being mentored and ultimately becoming a mentor for others, the continued purpose of providing leadership, guidance, and an outlet for both Mac and other veterans and military alike drives this experience. I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to seeing what Mac passes on through this format. As I understand it, it'll be a podcast, and they're going to discuss all things reintegration, military, getting out, and the struggles of getting out. Obviously, Mac is a subject matter expert in these areas, as he was in the military, being a command sergeant major. So I'm looking forward to that a lot. It's going to be really cool. So check it out on all the appropriate channels, and I'll provide links to those in the description. Mac's Man Cave, looking forward to it. A movie set is a frenetic scene, a certain inexplicable order in the chaos that's hard to explain to one who hasn't been around that particular setting. And yet, maybe that's why it makes so much sense to bring combat veterans into the fray. Isn't being on set like being in combat in many ways? Think about it. Everyone has a role within the team or unit, and no matter what that role is, even the most, air quotes, minor of those positions can cause the whole mission, or in the case of our analogy, film, to implode. Of course, one means life and death, which is definitely a more serious matter, but the other results in terrible consequences as well. It's even possible that you lose the entire film, costing investors millions of dollars and possibly destroying the careers of those working on set. All this being said, I'd be remiss if I failed to mention that I took the job as a set photographer on an upcoming psychological thriller called The Curse of Sinchanee, because it brought me close to a veteran I'd been looking to cover for quite some time. Stay tuned on the film side. It's going to be a really incredibly well done piece by Stephen Graham and Nate Boyer over at Team House Studios, which I just spoke about. But we're really looking forward to that. Yet when I arrived in western Massachusetts, I met another veteran who immediately kind of captured my imagination, and better yet, he quickly became a brother. Command Sergeant Major Donald McAlister served first in the invasion of Iraq in 2003, already a staff sergeant in the United States Army, then subsequently thereafter deploying to Afghanistan 3 times. He'd probably kill me if I didn't mention that he was a paratrooper with the 82nd, and I don't blame him. A lot of proud lineage there. A titanic career of 20-plus years, with his second-to-last deployment being to the hellish landscape of the Arghandab River Valley, an integral portion of Taliban-held territory regionally tied to their holy city of Kandahar. Violent days. Don was immediately friendly and quickly fit in with the rest of the crew staying at our Airbnb. I remember when we first met, this kind of bad biker dude. I walk in, he's got the mohawk, long hair on top and the back. He's got the earrings and the Viking braided beard. Looked like a guy I would meet after a bad night at a biker bar at 2 a.m. in the back alley and immediately regret meeting him. I know Don's going to love that description. Spit and polish Command Sergeant Major, no more. Now, the badass biker Viking hybrid. That's a lesson on stereotypes, right? We talked about that last time on the podcast, but every bit of the type of guy you would see and go, oh, don't mess with that dude. And he turns out to be the guy that'll give you the shirt off his back. Don should be very proud of that. Something stayed with me, though, on those long days working together on set. I truly believe part of McAlister was still back in the Arghandab River Valley. 20-plus years, violent combat, brotherhood, blood, sweat, tears, and training all the time as a paratrooper. Then it's all gone. In this podcast, you will hear Don speak about the necessity of taking a tactical pause, where you slow down before a big decision just long enough to weigh out all the factors. This is a vital tenet of leadership, one which McAlister learned hard early on in basic training. But where was the tactical pause when Mac left the Army? Where were the programs enabling him to get used to civilian life, settle back in with his family, and prepare him for the rest of his life? There was no tactical pause. Thank you for your service, Don. Enjoy your life. So says the Army, and so it is. I know Don, if he was being completely honest, and Don's not one to complain, but he would tell you he still struggles with that. So here he is, with an education on reintegration after a career of combat. My brother, Donald McAlister.
The Veterans Project is a comprehensive essay capturing the legacies of our warfighters, caregivers, and civilians who have stepped forward in defense of our patriotic principles in an effort to capture their stories and to never forget the staggering sacrifices of our nation's finest. This is the Veterans Project podcast, where our legacies are the mission. Here's your host, Tim Kay.
This is the Veterans Project podcast. My name is Tim Kay, and I will be your host as always. Today, we have an awesome guest on the show. He's shaking his head. They all shake their head when I say awesome. Yeah. You can't get any of them to respond positively to that. It's the humility. But we have Command Sergeant Major Don McAlister on, recently retired, right?
Yeah, almost 3 years now.
3 years, okay. So it's been a little bit, but probably doesn't feel like very long with such a long career in the Army.
Nah, it feels like a short amount of time. Yeah.
And Don, what specifically did you do? What was your specific command? Where with the 82nd?
Well, my last job with the 82nd, I was honored enough to be the command sergeant major for 2nd Battalion, 508th Parachute Infantry Regiment.
That's kind of a big deal.
Yeah, I guess you could say that. But it was what was really such a cool thing for me and such an honor was the fact that I got selected to come back to that battalion to be the command sergeant major when I did all my first sergeant time in that battalion. And
wow.
And I went on, 2 combat deployments with that battalion as a first sergeant, and then to come back as a command sergeant major was just like everything just coming full circle,
That's pretty special.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So, Don, obviously with the project, we go into a lot of the past life. We talk a lot about, what led your path into the Army and why you made the decisions you did, good and bad.
Yeah.
We'll preface the bad part of it saying, it happens with the infantry guys. We're sorry.
Yeah.
But also we're not sorry.
Exactly.
Don, so, let's go back, man, growing up in Louisiana. Tell us what kind of led your path to the Army, and what do you remember about growing up in Louisiana?
Well, man, growing up a little small podunk town in Louisiana, I had my grandpa was a World War II vet in the Navy. I had a bunch of uncles who were Vietnam vets. My dad was 19 when I was born in 1973. So basically he just missed the cusp as far as getting drafted to go to Vietnam. So he didn't really do any of that. But I had a lot of uncles who served in Vietnam and Korea. And what really did it for me is I saw, the war movies and stuff like that. And, I saw The Longest Day, which I thought was one of the most bad things I'd ever seen. and then Rambo came out.
Uh-oh.
And I thought everybody in the Army looked like that or in the military period. So I was like, yeah, I'm going to be like Rambo. But
Who doesn't want to be Rambo?
Yeah. But like as a little kid, man, I don't know. Ever since I was, I can remember I always wanted to be a soldier.
Yeah.
Well, I'd say soldier, but either a Marine or a soldier because I had so many Marines in my family. And the Army just worked out better because I could jump out of planes and all that stuff. So it was more of a better fit for me, I think.
Would you say that's why you chose Army over the Marine Corps? It was kind of between airborne and you really wanted to do airborne stuff?
Yeah, I mean, really the story about it is my dad, I was talking to him when I was in high school and I spoke to the Marine Corps recruiter. And I told him, I wanted to be a paratrooper. And he's like, well, in the Marines, the only way you can do that is go force recon, and you got to go, and then you got to get selected and everything. And then the Army recruiter, because they're all right there together at the mall, he was like, "Did you say airborne?" And then the rest is history,
Capitalizing on the Marine Corps mess right there.
Yeah.
The Marines were like, you don't need airborne. We just jump out of planes and land on our feet.
Yeah.
Oh, we love you, Marines.
Yeah.
So, were you... growing up, what do you remember about your parents and kind of your path that specifically led you into the Army?
Well, I'll tell you,
What are some of your best memories maybe of home?
my best memories of home was they're some of the best now that I'm grown, but when I was younger, I thought they were some of the hardest. My dad was a pretty hard ass dude. He always kicked me in the ass when I needed it and everything, and in high school, when I was a freshman in high school, him and my mom got a divorce. And then, I played the one against the other game and got expelled my freshman year. So I wound up doing the 5-year plan in college. I mean, in high school. That's why I went in the Army at 19 instead of 18. But, the great memories I have, and I always tried to kind of be like that as a father, is like, no matter how hard my dad was working, when he got home, he was always home with me, Mm-hmm. Like we'd either watch a movie or go fishing. Like we did a lot of fishing. And then every Tuesday and Thursday night we would go, because they had the dollar movies back then, so we'd go see a movie. And
that's cool. Yeah, I remember those.
Yeah, but he just, he taught me that, he's a hard but he was always there and wanted to be with the family. And, he worked his ass off, and that's what, kind of gave me, it gave me my work ethic. And I think when I went in the military, I didn't really know if it was going to be like my life. Mm-hmm. But what I did know was I was afraid to let my dad down. Yeah. So everything I did was to bust my ass and, do what was right. And if I got hemmed up, and I'd suck it up and move on to the next thing, But yeah, I mean, just being a little kid down there, and then, especially being in high school, a lot of guys in the military can relate to this, is you got all these friends and everything in high school back home. You were a bunch of freaking heathens, especially infantrymen in high school. Yeah. And then you go in the military and you kind of get your together. You're still a freaking idiot most of the time, but you get your together, and then you go back home, and those guys that you were hanging out with are doing the same they were doing when you left. And, my dad always tells me that was the best thing I ever did, was getting away from home. Yeah. To kind of grow up. So
it's important, man. I don't think enough people realize that, kind of stepping away from your home environment and seeing the world and getting to, kind of be around different ideas, different thoughts, different environments, different cultures. The military does a really good job of, maybe, it's not like, come see the world, and you're like, dancing in a circle. Yeah, like the Navy commercials make.
Yeah, there's no kumbaya.
No, there's no kumbaya. But, like getting to actually like get out there in these, even those stressful, austere environments, a lot of them, it is valuable to be amongst, the other cultures and ethnicities, and, getting to spend that time in learning, different backgrounds, man. It makes your life more diverse.
It does, and you get to see the absolute best in people, but you also get to see the absolute worst in people in the human race. So it kind of, as an adult growing up in that environment, you really kind of get an appreciation for what life is really about, and why you're here, and what your path is, and you see even not just bad guys in combat, but you see people in the military, and you're like, I don't want to be that guy.
Yeah.
I want to be that guy. So that's yeah. And the culture, I mean, exactly, you hit the nail on the head. Me being from a little town in southeast Louisiana, there's no way I would ever hang out with dudes from Los Angeles, California that were in freaking street gangs and all before they came in the military, and then we become like best friends. And it's like, and what's great about our world and our culture is as warriors, man, is it's not about where you came from, it's about where you're at.
Absolutely.
And that's important.
Absolutely. Kind of all those past mistakes, all those past issues in life kind of dissolve away, when you get in your unit. And, it's like, all right, just have my back, loyalty. That's the number one thing. I tell people that all the time with friendships, man. It's like, I don't care where you came from. I don't care about your past. What I care about is you're going to have my back when I kick down that door.
Yeah.
And those are who my best friends are. Like, everybody makes mistakes. Everybody has issues. Everybody has a past. And, some of them are better than others, and from the mistake side. But, the loyalty is my big thing. Like, are you going to have my back when everybody else is, is out of the picture?
Yeah, man. For me, it's always been loyalty and integrity. Because
integrity, very important.
Yeah, the loyalty piece, just like you said, man, in our world, you can't afford to have somebody around you that's not loyal. At the end of the day, man, you're resting your life in their hands and your buddies' lives, and, loyalty is what gets you through. And then integrity is something that I know if I confide in you, man, that you're going to be truthful and honest with me, whether or not it's what I want to hear. Sometimes it's what I need to hear. And you have the integrity and the candor enough to actually tell me what the hell I need to hear. And I really love that about our culture, because most guys and gals actually get that after being in. They understand that there's no room for bull. It's all about, hey, you're all jacked up right now. Fix your shit.
Mm-hmm.
And this is me.
Yeah.
I'm not blowing any smoke up your ass. Whatever you see is what you get.
Right.
And that's the integrity piece. It's just be loyal to yourself and who you are, and if you are that person, you're always going to tell people the truth.
Yeah. What do you remember about first joining the Army and getting to your unit, and what were the lessons learned by Mac in basic training? What do you remember being some of the most important lessons?
Well, I'll tell you a quick story that's a really important one.
Roll with it.
And I'll never forget this one from basic training. Well, first off, the drill sergeant called me McAlister from the get-go.
Wow.
Yeah, because I was kind of a little smart, and but the night we were doing the night infiltration course, I was the squad leader.
Mm-hmm.
Drill sergeant's back there with us. We walked through the woods looking at each other's cat eyes, because that's before everybody had nods, because I'm ancient. And
I had cat eyes.
Yeah, like some people had nods, some people didn't. But back then in basic, you didn't have nods. You're just following the cat eyes. But we, walked through the woods, got to the berm, and on the backside, they had the little bench and everything where you could sit down and all that. And the drill sergeant's like, stand by. I was like, Roger, drill sergeant. And then he left. And it'd been like 15, 20 minutes. He didn't come back. And then the shooting, all the shooting and everything started, and the explosions. And I was like, oh, this must be a test.
Mm-hmm.
So I told the dudes, let's go. So we crossed the berm, and we did the high crawl, low crawl all the way through. Them shooting. With back then, you're thinking it's 3 foot over your head, but it's literally like 18 foot over your head.
Exactly.
But you get, we're doing that. I'm all excited, and we get to the other end, and I'm all proud of myself, like I took initiative and I did something. Drill sergeant standing there, he's like, hey, McAlister. I was like, yeah, drill sergeant. He's like, hey, stand by. And I was like, Roger. So I stood there, parade rest. All the dudes got on the bus, and then he's like, hey, as soon as we get back to the starship, you get off the bus, you come straight to me. I was like, Roger, drill sergeant. So I went straight to him, and I thought he was going to, like, give me kudos and for taking the initiative.
Yeah.
Bad, no, it was not kudos. He hemmed my ass up for, like, forever, and then he said he was going to teach me a lesson about following instructions and, having some tactical patience. And basically what he did was he had me take every sandbag from the PT track, bring it to back then the hand-to-hand combat pit, and build a bunker. And then I had to take all the sandbags and put them back.
Oh.
What that night taught me was taking initiative is good, but also sometimes having that patience and taking that tactical pause is even a little better. Because you can take a step back and look at things. And
lessons for combat.
Yeah, like, because I didn't know what was on the other side of that wall. I was just a little hardcore who thought I was doing something cool, and realistically, I could have got all those guys hurt because we didn't even know if they were ready or whatever,
Right.
So I learned a lot that day. That was one of the biggest lessons out of basic training I had. Plus, it was one of the suckiest times because it was all night moving sandbags and putting them back, and it was ridiculous.
That sounds terrible. That was, 92 that you joined? Yeah, so this is before, for those of you listening, this is, pre-war. We're kind of in our peacetime, with small conflicts going on here and there, but obviously not like, we have with Iraq and Afghanistan, the Middle East now. So, what that story reminds me of. We were in basic training at Fort Knox, and we had this one guy, I won't name him, but he was just, one of those dudes. It's like, pretty like, he'd done ROTC and, thought he knew it all. He's sharp, as far as like very smart, very quick on his feet. Always had an answer for everything, and pretty much, about halfway through basic training was about ready to, get recycled back 2 weeks. Because drill sergeants just couldn't stand him.
Yeah.
Like, he just thought he knew it all. He was always, kind of snapping back. And drill sergeants were finally like, listen, we're gonna move you over across the street to Alpha, and we're gonna move you back 2 weeks or whatever. They sent him across the street that night, like that day. And the drill sergeants like had him with his sea bags and out front, and they had a drill sergeant sat on a chair with a megaphone on the parade ground, and it'd be like, one black sock.
Oh,
and he would
shit.
grab one sock, sprint across to the drill sergeant, lay it down, and then sprint back to the bag.
Damn.
Dude, we got back from we were doing drills out in the field, like mount training and stuff, getting ready for Iraq. This is 2005. And we came back, and he was still doing it, man. And he was probably, drill sergeants would like trade shifts. He was probably out there for like roughly like 10 hours.
Oh yeah, easy with all that equipment and doing it one piece at a time.
Oh, dude.
Oh man.
Yeah. But you know what? He was back with us like 3 days later, and he was just glad he wasn't being recycled. But they gave him another chance, and he snapped to it. So
yeah.
That story made me think about that.
Yeah. Sometimes it just takes that, something to give you that little bit of freaking initiative and drive and pain.
Yeah, pain.
Pain and taking your time, man. That will motivate the hell out of you.
Absolutely. So where was your first unit? Who were you with at first?
I was actually with the 3rd U.S. Infantry, the Old Guard, was my first duty assignment, so the Honor Guard.
Awesome.
Yeah, I got recruited out of airborne school and everything, and then went there, didn't know what I was getting into. I got talked into it by the recruiter, and yeah, I had no clue what it was. I did not know what to expect until I got there.
Yeah.
But
what was it like when you got there?
Well, it was like a fraternity, you know. If you were the freaking, we called it back then new dicks.
Yeah.
You can't do that now, obviously, but
yeah.
But if you were that guy, you were getting, every detail. You were getting hemmed up daily. You had to do a 3-week new man course, they called it.
Mm-hmm.
So you had to learn how to do Old Guard, shining your brass and shining your shoes, and then pressing your uniforms and learning how to march and stand at attention for like 2 hours and parade rest for 2 hours. And yeah, it sucked, but
there's a lot of civilians who listen to this podcast. So can you kind of tell us what the Old Guard is, so we know, have a better idea of what that's like.
Yeah, so the Old Guard is the honor guard in Washington D.C., and it's basically the United States Army's presidential escort slash. We're the premier ceremonial unit, for the Army, and the Old Guard actually conducts all the funerals in Arlington National Cemetery, and they also everyone that walks the mat at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier are all part of the Old Guard.
Yeah.
As well as the U.S. Army drill team. And it's funny when guys found out that I did this, but I was in Alpha Company, the Old Guard, which was the Commander-in-Chief's Guard.
Oh, wow.
And we actually, for retirements and stuff, we carried muskets and wore colonial uniforms.
Wow.
Because our barracks was on the other side of the river in D.C., not over in Arlington. And they set up Alpha Company, I think, in 1979 over there. They were established after George Washington's original Life Guard. So,
wow.
Hence the Commander-in-Chief's Guard.
Wow.
And, I did that. I also did, I did funerals in Arlington Cemetery. I did simple honors and full honors. And did joined escorts and joint arrivals at the White House, because back then, if you had a top secret security clearance, then everybody for every White House ceremony or anything with the president came together as a regiment, and then you detailed out, because back then, only a certain amount of people had top secret clearances.
Right,
so,
right.
But it was, I would tell you, as a young soldier, not knowing what to expect and going there and hating it at first because, I thought I wasn't doing my job.
Yeah.
I mean, we did field training and everything just like everybody else, regular infantry stuff. But what it did teach me, and I'm so thankful that I went there, is discipline is the key to everything.
That's cool.
It's not having a cool haircut. It's not any of that. It's about, hey, if you got to be ready at freaking 6:30, you're going to start at 4:30.
Yeah.
So
there's so many details associated with those, with the details with the burials and with.
Yep.
I mean, I don't think people understand that. Like the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, that kind of stuff that he, when he's walking out there, that doesn't happen within, overnight. Like,
no,
that is a lot of detail.
The guys you see walking the tomb during the day,
mm-hmm.
I want to say back then they had to be with the tomb for, I want to say 12 months before they could even get a chance to walk the mat.
Wow.
Like out in front of people. So at night when the cemetery's closed is when guys who complete the training, they march at night, and they're constantly being evaluated. And if they mess anything up, they're out.
Wow.
Like if you make a mistake, you're out.
Wow.
So the tomb is one of those, if you guys get a tomb guard badge, no matter what they do throughout the rest of their career, if they get in any kind of trouble, that badge is taken away.
Wow. Really?
Yeah. Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Yeah, so it's a
lot of prestige behind that.
And to do that, I had people ask me, why didn't I do it? And to tell you the truth, back then, I don't think I was disciplined enough to do it.
Really?
Because that had to be your life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like just 247 getting, especially the training they had to do to make it. So guys and gals that walk that mat are truly dedicated. Now, we'll say it's a little easier for them now because they don't have to shine their brass anymore. It's all stay bright. But they still do a kick-ass job, and they look great.
Yeah,
and,
they really do. Nothing gives me chills like that, like standing there and at attention and hearing those, orders, and then watching them just, watching the period of observation and every little detail gone over, and the look down the rifle, and just check. I mean, beautiful, dude. Beautiful.
Yeah, the changing of the guard is just awesome, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
And and I hope it's always there, because it shows people that come to see how much it kind of gives you, if you've never seen, an appreciation for what those guys are in that cemetery doing and what it's about. So
I saw a clip on YouTube, I think it was, where somebody kind of was like, chatting it up, talking a little bit during the changing of the guard ceremony.
Oh yeah,
and
Ladies and gentlemen, it is requested that you remain silent during that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I saw that barked out,
Yeah.
and oh my gosh, dude, it was like a lightning bolt came out of the sky. I would have been, dude, I would have just died right in that moment and like curled up in a ball and like, and like disappeared.
Yeah. Because it's about those unknown soldiers in that tomb. It's not about us; it's about them.
Absolutely, respect, and there are quite a few people out there not learning respect.
Yeah,
unfortunately nowadays. Mac, you had a storied combat career, and I know you probably shake your head when I say that because that's what you guys do.
Yeah.
but you did, retired command sergeant major. I mean, I have a great amount of respect for you in your position, and we just met a few days ago. But I, did I ever think I would be sitting in the company of sergeant majors and like interviewing them, and like I tried to avoid you guys like the plague when I was in, so.
As most people did.
Yes. So like getting to talk to you now and like getting to spend that time is pretty cool. Can you talk a little bit about your first tour and who that was with?
Yeah, so my first combat tour was the initial invasion in Iraq in 2003. I was actually a weapons squad leader in 2nd 325 Airborne Infantry Regiment with 82nd Airborne. We initially got deployed, and we were going to jump into Baghdad with 75th Ranger Regiment. My battalion was.
Okay.
Because of the thunder run, the sandstorms, and all that stuff, the jump got scratched, and we actually got on the birds that we were going to jump from, and we flew into Talil Air Base in Iraq, and then the next day we gacked and went into a town called Asamoah, and we're in the biggest firefight that the 82nd Airborne had been in since World War II.
Wow.
And we whooped that But
what was that like though? All the preparation and training, 92 you joined. Kind of backtrack a little bit. What do you remember about September 11th?
Well, man, I tell you, September 11th I was actually in Hawaii with the 127 Wolfhounds, and I remember that morning I was a young staff sergeant, but I was a platoon sergeant at the time.
Yeah.
And my first sergeant gave me a call, and there it was like 3 o'clock in the morning, maybe 4 o'clock in the morning. And he called me up, and he's like, "Hey, Mac, turn your TV on." And I was like, "Okay, first sergeant." Turned TV on, and I was like, "What the hell?"
Yeah.
And he's like, "Hey, man, I need you to get in as soon as you can." And I literally lived just right across the street from Schofield Barracks on Wheeler Airfield. Mm-hmm. And it took me 3 hours to get to work.
Wow.
Because, the security had hit. My first sergeant actually never even made it into work that day because he lived out in Hilamano. But
wow.
But what I mainly remember about it is, seeing what happened on TV, and then, actually starting to get all the information as to what was going on, and what really, me and quite a few other guys there were talking about it that day. We were with the 25th, and we were like so like pissed off because we knew that we weren't the ones going to get the call.
Yeah.
Because our theater of operations was the Pacific back then. We were the Pacific Reaction Force.
Right.
And, so September 11th happened that day. Everything kind of changed for everybody in the Army then because we realized that, that was right there. It was like our war's finally starting for guys from my generation, because we had been in the Army for, some of us quite a few years and trained our butts off, and we're like, hey, is it always going to be like this? We're just shooting shit up but never actually getting to go take out bad guys. And the next thing you know, that happened.
Yeah.
And then
your question was forever answered.
Yeah. But we kind of felt like we were on the sidelines,
Yeah.
when Afghanistan kicked up in 2001. And, I told my wife, I was actually even thinking about getting out of the Army before that. And then so I re-enlisted to go to the 82nd Airborne. I got there in August of 2002. Mm-hmm. And as soon as I got there, there were rumors that we had a big mission coming up, but nobody really knew what. So I got there in August 2002, and then February of 2003, I was deployed.
Wow.
And we trained our asses off because we knew it was coming.
Yeah. What was that? What was that? Did you feel ready? Did you feel excited? Did you feel ready to go? I mean, you don't know
Yeah.
you didn't know what Iraq was going to be like. None of us
No.
did.
No, the only thing we knew is, at that point, guys like me, we had been training to fight the Russians for freaking years.
Right.
So we were ready for an army-on-army battle. And, at that time, Iraq was saying they had the biggest army in the world, and a lot of Americans were going to get killed if we come in and blah, blah, blah. And we were like, screw that. We're going to go crush these motherfuckers,
Yeah.
But for me, the hardest part, being all excited, being motivated to go do my job, and I was like, all hooah hooah, ready to go kick.
Mm-hmm.
And then it came time to say goodbye to my little girls and my wife.
Yeah.
And I had never had a hard time before, because it was always training.
Yeah.
But that one was like, I didn't know what we were going into. None of us did. We didn't even know where we were going because they wouldn't tell us.
Right.
And leaving them was like one of the hardest things I did. And then I actually didn't get to talk to my wife for, it was about 4 months.
Wow.
When we finally got to Baghdad, and a guy had a satellite phone.
Wow.
But we went into Iraq. We were like better trained than we did so much training. It's right now with the way everything works and the equipment you have and all, like you can't get out and get the kind of training that we used to get.
Yeah.
We would go out to the woods and be out there for 30 days at a time.
Yeah.
And at the time, it totally freaking sucked.
Yeah.
But when you look back on it, it sucked. But we practiced those drills, patrol bases, everything else, and it was all that we did in Iraq. Because Iraq, when we first went in the initial invasion, it was us, movement to contact, reacting to contact, taking out bad guys, all that stuff. It wasn't counterinsurgency or any of that stuff. It was taking out an army.
Right.
And so we went in there, man, and I was in. Yeah, you asked me, how it felt. I will tell you, the night we got outside of Samoa in our patrol base. I remember my company commander told me, I was the support by fire element for the company because I was the senior staff sergeant. Our job was to move up to Highway 8, secure the first bridge with a support by fire position so the rest of the company could move forward, our platoon being the main effort, and then the rest of the company move up. And then so there were 2 key bridges, and then the other bridge about a mile down the road was our 1st battalion was taking that one. And I went in as a weapons squad leader. That night, I counted all my equipment and everything, and I remember when we were leaving Fort Bragg, when we were getting ammo, the guys were like, here, get your ammo. I was like, how much we get? And he's like, how much you want? So I had 4,000 rounds per gun.
Wow.
I want to say I had 6 law rockets for the squad.
Yeah.
I had 2 javelins. I had finagled a way to get 203s for my my ammo bearers.
You were ready to destroy.
Oh, yeah. That night, we got our mission brief. We're outside the city, and then the shock and awe started. Everything's getting exploded. It's just blowing up everywhere. And then we're walking all night to go in, and then me and my guys bumped up to go set up that first support by fire position right on the other side of the road by the bridge. And I'll never forget, man. Like I'm going up there, and I bring my AG with me.
Yeah.
Because back then weapon squads knew what the hell they were doing.
Yeah.
But I brought my AG.
You sound like a crusty old command sergeant major.
Yeah. But I brought my AG up there with me, and we established our position to bring the guns up. And I was like, "What the hell is that noise?" And he's like, "They're shooting at us, Sergeant." I'd never been shot at, man. You heard it on the range and all, but it wasn't the same.
Yeah, of course.
You know what it sounds like now, but you never know that until you hear it that first time. When you hear shooting by you, but when it's actually shooting at you, it's a little different.
Oh, yeah, and it's a strange, like, recognition pattern where you're like, no way anybody would, like, shoot at me.
Yeah, because it takes you a minute.
How dare they?
Yeah, it takes you a minute to be like, wait, are they shooting at me?
Wait, is this a part where we start trying to kill each other?
Yeah, like, is that dude seriously shooting at me?
So weird.
But nah, man, we went in there, our first big mission, and
what's it like first pulling that trigger? You know, what did you feel? What was the feeling? Was it all instinctual?
Yeah,
by
it
then?
was. It was all instinctual, man. Like people ask me that all the time. You know, as a squad leader back then, and you know, pulling the trigger was just part of the drill, man. You know, you target, you engage.
Yeah.
You know, just like anything else. You know, react to contact. You're conducting that drill, and you don't think about it. And you know, that firefight lasted us about probably 7 hours.
Wow.
They did the James Dietz print about it. I got it up in my living room. It's pretty much my squad in the painting.
Cool.
Which is it's a bad painting. It's you know, we the firefight was over. We took out a of guys, a bunch of dudes. So basically, it was us on one side of the river and the bad guys on the other in the city.
Yeah.
And they were in all the high-rise buildings and everything. And they had bunkers everywhere. And you know, we were just hemming them up.
Yeah.
I was down to 140-something rounds for both guns out of 4,000. One of my gunners had shot so much his bipod legs broke off.
Wow.
Yeah. But we got. I remember what I do remember, and I always push this to guys. You know, I never talked about being a bad or any of that, but what I always told guys after that was, you know how in the military we always say you got to be in shape to get to the fight, blah blah blah.
Uh-huh.
I can tell you this: if you're walking across the desert into a hot battle, and you know there's bad guys everywhere, your ain't falling out.
Yeah.
You're not going to be left.
No.
But when that 7-hour firefight goes down and your rucksack feels like it weighs 2,000 pounds,
Yeah.
and your adrenaline goes down and you have no energy, and then you got to walk 10 clicks back to an assembly area, that's the worst walk of your life.
Oh, I'm sure.
And the only thing that will get you there is your physicality.
Yeah.
Because your mind done gave up and your heart was like, screw you, dude.
Yeah.
You know? So the only thing that's going to get you there is your physicality.
Yeah.
And that's why I always try to get across to guys, because we always preach you got to be able to get to the objective. Yeah. But the real important reason to be in shape is because once you're done with that one fight,
Yeah.
you're moving to the next.
That's true.
You know?
People don't understand that adrenaline dump.
Yeah. And you know what it's like. When that dump goes down, like it is like I had never felt anything like that. And you know, you got adrenaline from jumping out of planes or doing live fires or whatever, but nothing like that feeling.
No.
You know, I remember we had one guy, I'm not going to say his name, but he was just laying in the sewage. He's like, just leave me, man. You know, we're like, no, dude, get up. You know, but it's because it sucks so bad, you know, but,
Yeah.
but you know, it's like, it is one of those things, you know, we went into that first battle and, I did my job, you know, what a weapon squad leader's supposed to do. I did a support by fire. We lit it up. So I had my first magazine was nothing but tracer rounds.
Wow.
So I was just marking targets everywhere,
Yeah.
and a couple targets got hit by me. If that's any, but yeah.
I bet they did.
Oh, and I will say this too. I did preach this to guys too, based off my first combat experience. Was when we were walking in that night. I had a CCO back then because we only had a couple of ACOGs and a platoon and all.
Yeah.
And my CCO fogged up on me.
Oh.
So I just took it off and put it in my butt pack.
Yeah.
And I popped up my backup iron sight, my BIS, and I was ready to go. And that's why I told guys, you better make sure that mug's zeroed.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And my first big firefight, luckily I had 2 machine guns with me too, but I didn't have any kind of optic on my weapon.
Right. Yeah.
But I could still hit like dead-eye dick because, you know, my iron sights were zeroed in, so.
Yeah, good old iron sights,
Yeah.
man. I remember basic training. That was a big thing for me. I remember we got our ACOGs and CCOs and going into Iraq, and it was like, what is this thing? I had no real experience with that. So it's always important to train how you fight, be prepared for technology to break down, and be ready when it goes back to, the old saying, cavemen in clubs,
because that truly happens, man. And you have to be able to, just because something breaks don't mean you're not continuing mission. You're going to go and you're going to freaking make it happen. So
that's one kind of regret I have is I was decently versed in hand-to-hand combatives, but I just wish I would have taken that more seriously. Even though I never needed it, I feel like that's an obligation as a soldier, is to absolutely know how you're going to get into it when all things break down. You know?
It's true.
You know how important that is, being part of the 82nd.
Yeah, you have to. What you have to understand as a soldier, man, is like, anything you do, you should be an expert at. Like
Absolutely.
anything that you try, you should, if I just hand you this, then immediately you should start focusing and figuring out, hey, how can I be the best I can be with this piece of equipment? Or if you send me to combatives level 1, 2, 3, how can I be the best dude in this course and kick everybody's ass,
Right.
and understand and soak it up. Like I've had people ask me if I have regrets and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And, we all did stuff that we know we could have done better over the years.
Yeah, yeah.
But when you look back on it, man, it's all relative. Because, even if you sucked at something, but you were a good dude and a good soldier,
Mm-hmm.
you learn from it.
Oh, for sure.
And you got so much better.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's what I love about the military, is you can make mistakes as long as it's not when it's game time.
You're right. Yeah. Yeah.
And you can make mistakes out on that range, and that's where you really learn from it. But you don't only learn from the mistake, but you learn from all your buddies.
True.
Because everybody has some input.
Uh-huh.
And that's
it's an environment of peer pressure in the best kind of way, right?
Yeah.
And you guys breaking each other down, constantly watching, because at the end of the day, if you kick down that door and that guy's got to have your back, you're going to want that guy to succeed.
Exactly.
100%. So you're going to be rooting for each other, right?
Yeah.
Positive reinforcement.
Yeah.
It might look like negative sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, and in my case, negative reinforcement, but that's...
But now positive for those guys that remember you.
Yeah. But at the time...
Yeah. It sucks.
Most of the time they're like, that dude's a total freaking prick, man.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure.
But it's because, you're doing your job and you
want to save lives.
Like, for example, when I was a first sergeant, we'd do platoon live fires or whatever, and me and the CO would be like good cop, bad cop. I was always bad cop because he'd tell them everything they did well, and then I'd go and just crush their soul.
Yeah.
And I remember I had one of my platoon sergeants one time. He came in my office. He's like, First Sergeant, can you at least give him a little bit of positive reinforcement? I was like, that ain't my f***ing job.
Yeah.
Because at that time we were deploying, coming back, deploying, coming back. And in my mind, I was the guy that had to just keep everything glued together.
Yeah.
And I didn't treat guys like, but I would crush their soul.
Right.
And
understand. Yeah.
And that's important.
Yeah.
And anything you do, I mean, obviously, even in the civilian world, it's kind of like that when you're a boss, but you just don't go to the extreme you do in the military because it's not life and death.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And also, like, people can quit.
Yeah, people can quit in the military.
In the Army.
And in the Army, you don't want guys to quit. You want them to succeed. You want them to keep pushing because, they're part of the team, man. And it's it's always funny when you see that young guy that you think is going to quit, and then he winds up having the most get up out of everybody.
Oh, yeah, dude.
He just, like you and I were talking the other day, he's just kind of genetically robbed,
Yeah.
But
that's true.
But damn, he's got some heart.
Yeah, he's got some heart. Yeah. Gotta love him. So how long was that first tour of combat?
Well, it wound up being right at a year for the battalion, but I came back about a month and a half before they did because I got wounded. Oh, okay.
Oh, wow. You were wounded on your first tour.
Yeah.
Okay, I did not know that.
Yeah.
Okay. So where were you guys based out of while you were making movements? Talil?
So basically, when we left Talil, we just went from city to city all the way up to Baghdad, just clearing them.
Set up shop wherever you were?
Yeah. So, we'd sleep wherever.
Mount training except live?
Yeah. We went Samoa, Diwania, Ramadi. We went through Najaf, but the Marines were there. We just kind of did like a friendly movement across their front lines, because we had to get to where we were going. We were in Habaniya, and
good old Habaniya.
Yeah,
a lot of stories from there.
And then we went up to Baghdad. So we got to Baghdad, I want to say in like May, June.
Okay.
Yeah.
What was it like kind of skipping from city to city? What were the different spots? Did you recognize any spots as particular problem spots that you knew, like, oh, this is going to be an issue for us in the future?
Well.
But you're not thinking about the insurgency necessarily, right?
No. Now, I will tell you, when we were moving up, Diwania, it had more people there that were unfriendly. So
interesting.
And it just seemed like a lot of the guys, that were in civilian clothes and everything were not civilians.
Yeah. They didn't want you there.
Yeah, and we got, I actually had my weapon squad. We were moving into a blocking position one night. There was this palm tree orchard thing right on the canal,
Like a grove.
yeah, and we were moving, and we actually had a close ambush. But,
oh wow.
But luckily, those can't shoot; they just spray. So, my weapon squad leader, squad, instead of just turning and running, turned and freaking maneuvered.
Yeah.
So we had 240s and freaking, all that shit on those dudes, so they didn't have a chance.
Yeah.
But yeah, Diwania was a weird. We did a lot of shooting in Diwania, but it was the people there were weird. Like when we went through Asamoah, leaflets had been dropped and everything, and it was like, hey, get out of the city if you want to live, because what had happened in Samoa was the Fedayeen had circled back, and there were about 4,000 of them in the city.
Okay.
Waiting to come up behind Third ID to take them out. Because Third ID was pushing through, and God love them, they were doing a hell of a job, but the one thing they didn't do was clear the cities they were pushing through. So just gave the bad guys the ability to kind of
So they were kind of just destroying the things in front of them and then moving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, that's why the 82nd, the Marines and the 101st, we had to take those southern cities all the way up to Baghdad to clear them out, because the bad guys that came behind, and they were going to go try to take Third ID out the tanks,
Right, yeah.
And cut off supply lines.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. So, what do you, when you finally get up to Baghdad, what's the mood?
Well, when we got to Baghdad, it had turned into like the Wild West.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah, it almost felt like we were kind of like law enforcement / bounty hunters, because all the Fedayeen generals and everybody tried to hide into the populace, and we would get information, and then nightly we were doing raids, taking out high value targets, a lot of times arresting them without firing a shot because we get there so quick, but then sometimes having to take them out. And Baghdad, when we first got there, was we were just getting information on bad guys, and we were just going to take them out. And then, towards the end of the summer, it started getting more. They started bringing more people into Baghdad that were bad guys that were coming in, and it wasn't even. At first, it didn't even seem like they were there for us. It was more they were there to pillage.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it was easy pickings.
Right.
So. A lot of the people would always tell us Alibaba's over there, Alibaba's here, so we go take them out. It was pretty crazy. And then I think we had our first guy in the battalion got hit with an IED. I want to say it was in August. It was a guy from our Delta company, and he got killed. We didn't even know what IEDs were.
Wow, really?
Yeah, and when they started, we'd see some. And we'd go pick it up or kick it and be like, what the hell is that,
Yeah.
Before we even knew what they really were.
Wow.
We as a light infantry unit going into the invasion, we had to use whatever vehicles and everything we had and stuff like that. So we didn't have military vehicles for a long time.
Right.
We had civilian vehicles and stuff like that we had to patrol with. And we really didn't start getting hit, like as far as like bombs and IEDs and all, until we started using military vehicles, because at night they could hear us coming.
Right.
And they knew it was a Humvee. So, I remember we got commanded. We had got these 2 green Humvees, and the bad guys thought all tan Humvees were up armored, which hardly any were up armored back then.
Yeah.
So we got told that we needed to make them look like armored Humvees.
Yeah.
So I had to tell my guys to go take our wash buckets, fill them up with dirt, and put mud all over the trucks. So we basically painted the Humvees with mud.
That's hilarious.
Now, they did look tan.
Yeah. That's hilarious.
But they sure as hell wasn't stopping a bullet.
No.
Yeah.
Wow, man. What was that, what was that like kind of when that first guy got killed, that realization?
Well, it was, it just kind of, it threw us for a loop a little bit, because everything we had been doing to that point was getting shot at and shooting back.
Right.
And, they were just driving, and then they got blown up.
Yeah.
So, and then, after that, a couple more hit, and, we would make jokes and all, because we didn't have any armor, no doors, none of that So it'd be like going and like, you know, me and my buddies would be like, dude, I'm gonna squinch up for this curve. Maybe something's gonna happen, you know, because you don't, you know, you didn't know.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I know the feeling.
And then we all know the history of the IEDs after that. But yeah, that was when they first started.
Yeah, technology started changing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it goes back into kind of history with like enemy and friendly, like figuring each other out, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think Chechens were some of the first to kind of bring in suicide vests
Yep.
and use those ball bearings. And
Yep.
IED technology, a lot of
Yeah.
that came from them fighting Spetsnaz.
They brought in a lot of snipers as well because. You'd hear people talk about snipers from the Iraqi army and all, but they weren't snipers. They were just dudes shooting.
Right, yeah.
But those Chechens were snipers.
Yeah.
They could shoot from 500-600 meters away. And, so.
With some accuracy, yeah. I
Yeah.
remember my squad leader, Carter Chick, my best friend from my unit, who unfortunately lost a few years back, talking about, losing quite a few guys to a Chechen sniper in a particular area. And I think it was the 4th ID finally just pulled the tank up to a building and just, laid it down.
Yeah, leveled it.
But when they got to it, when they were actually patrolled through the area, they found him in the rubble. He was a Chechen, and he sat up with a 45 and started firing at them from the rubble as they were walking up on his position.
Yeah.
I mean, those guys like to fight.
No, they're dedicated fighters.
Yeah, very. Yeah.
Yeah, I fought quite a few of them up in Mosul.
Yeah.
My
Oh,
second
yeah.
Deployment.
Yeah. Yeah, go ahead and tell me about that second deployment.
Yeah, well, we were our second deployment, man. We got we had been back for about it was right at a year from our first deployment, and we got called up on the DRF for the elections over in Iraq. So my battalion were the only ones that deployed from 2nd Brigade, and we deployed in December of 2004. And our mission at first, we got sent to Baghdad to the Green Zone. Outside the Green Zone, highway of death there from the Green Zone to Biop.
Okay.
Our job was to go clear it out, and get rid of all the bad guys, because for the elections, all the dudes were getting their whooped.
Was that Tampa or Irish?
I think it's Route Irish.
Okay.
Yeah, it was Route Irish. And so we got there, man. We pushed out in sector, and we were there for about 2 weeks. Didn't hardly come in any resistance. The highway was clear. My platoon, we found a V-bid at a dude's house we raided. That was about it. And then we heard about the chow hall bombing up in Mosul at Camp Stryker.
Yeah.
And then
my squad leader from Iraq was on that cleanup detail.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we got a call, and then we got told, hey, it's clear down here. We're moving up to Mosul. And we got on birds. It was December 31st. So New Year's Eve, rolled up to Mosul, and then got down there, pushed out in sector, and it was a straight up Wild West. We were out there with the 25th. I want to say it was no, it wasn't 2nd Brigade, 25th. I think it was the 3rd Brigade. But yeah, they were out there, strikers and everything, shooting it up every day. And then you had a battalion of ground pounders that came out there, and we just started wreaking havoc and fighting Chechens every day, and you just pushing out in sector. And I would say it was fun, but it was cold, snowing, raining, all the time. So it pretty much sucked. But
people don't think of that when they think of Iraq, but the truth is up north it does get pretty cold. Even when you work a little bit north of Baghdad, man. I was in Taji, and the rainy season was awful, and that mud, man, is epically bad.
Yeah, like there were days up in Mosul, man, where we were on patrol and it just rained for days, and you're walking through, the streets are flooded, so you're walking through a foot of water, freezing your ass off. Like we would set up NAIs, so we would go to a house for the night and watch intersections or whatever, and my guys would look for a house with power because they knew it probably had a heater. You know what I mean? But yeah.
So what do you remember about the dynamic of Mosul and what that city was like when you got there?
When we got there, man, it was literally it was just like a lawless sector, man. Like it was basically we went out into the industrial district of Mosul, right outside of Old Mosul. We were right by the traffic circle was a Yarmouk traffic circle. It was a real big, I think, Route Tampa and some other routes ran into it. And that area was where all the bad guys were storing a lot of weapons caches and stuff like that. Yeah. And we just went in, raided took a lot of caches, blew a lot of shit up, and killed a lot of bad guys. But they had some really good fighters out there, especially the snipers.
Yeah.
Chechnyan, again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about that and the enemy that you were fighting as opposed to that first deployment. What was the difference in that?
Well, the difference was, when we were fighting the Iraqi army, they would fight, and then when we were ripping their ass, they would give up.
Right.
The difference was when we were up in Mosul, the fighters wouldn't give up. They were going to fight to the death or get away, one of the two. So, and they could shoot. So, they knew how to use their weapons. They wasn't just spraying over walls or any of that. They were taking well-aimed shots and, maneuvering on us and doing all the stuff they were supposed to do. There was one day we had a big, huge firefight. It was in the Yarmouk traffic circle. I don't know how many bad guys were out there, but basically it was the 4th ID guys, First ID guys with the Bradleys. We had our Delta Company, Heavy Weapons Company, and then my platoon went out on foot. We had aircraft and everything else, and there was a load of bad guys. And the firefight lasted a while, and we went searching, and we couldn't figure out how we couldn't find any bodies of the bad guys. Well, later on, I got to see satellite imagery of their Kazivac plan, and it was amazing. Mm-hmm. They had motorcycles, loads of them parked in the little alleyways and all, and as they would take a casualty, they'd throw them on a motorcycle and take off. Yeah. Just get him out of the AO because they didn't want the propaganda saying that, because they wanted to say they effed us up, but we didn't get them, So,
right. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
What, did you guys experience any losses when you were over there that second time?
Yeah, we did. Fortunately, for me, I didn't personally lose anybody in my platoon, but the battalion lost a few guys. Yeah. And in our company, we had a couple guys wounded, but for the most part, we laid scunion, and luckily, the wounds that guys had were not that bad,
Yeah. What do you think makes Mosul such a difficult city to fight in? Why do you think we never really, conquered that city? What do you think about it? Was it politics? Was it, just not, finishing the job? What about that city made it so complex and complicated?
Well, I think one, just the area it's in, and it has a big Kurdish population in there, and the tribal sects in Mosul, they were always fighting and everything. And then once the war kicked off, then everybody's like, hey, we could take control of this. So everybody was fighting for power. Mm-hmm. And when we went in there, we were pretty much fighting whoever had the most power and who was trying to control the city.
So you're saying there was a lot of civil war going on in the city?
A lot of civil war, and it wasn't just one against the other. There were multiple different tribes that would be fighting each other and stuff like that. So
interesting.
Yeah. And the big warlords would hire the Chechnyan guys to come in and take out their rivals and steal their stuff and stuff like that. And then they hire them, the snipers to come in and take us out. Yeah. Because we were clearing everything out. So
yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
So what was your main mission there at the time? Was it just to clear out the scumbags, get rid of all the bad dudes?
Yeah, well, our mission, man, when we went in, so like I said, the 25th had been in there fighting their butts off, man, and it was a really hard fight for them, and they needed somebody to go get inside the city on foot and, put boot to ground, face to face, and literally clear out that city. And that was our job, was to go in and clear. So we cleared from, block to block, house to house. We lived in a vegetable ghee factory out there with rats all over it, right in the middle of the city. But yeah, it was, our job was to go in, clear all the bad guys out so they could try to bring some stability. And the reason we were sent to do that is because we were originally sent to secure the elections down in Baghdad. And since that was kind of quiet, they sent us up there because they knew what all the going on. There was no way they would be able to conduct the election safely.
Right.
So, we cleared out. We actually, we did a good job, I think. And then when it was election time, we actually helped the elections go off, and we pulled a lot of security, set up a lot of overwatch positions, ambushes, stuff like that, and ensured. And what we did well was back then we didn't want those guys to know that we were there securing the elections. So,
Right.
So we did it with some standoff. So it was about the people, so it wasn't about us. It was about them, and we were there if we needed to come in and do something.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
What would you say was the most difficult part of the dynamic of that particular deployment? What would you say? Was it any one thing, or was it a litany of things? Was it a ton of issues?
Nah, it was a litany of things, man. I mean, the most difficult part for us was, we all had the Baghdad first deployment in our heads, and we were going to just lay scunion, like we did and everything. And then we get up there and, we're kicking dudes out, but at the same time, we got like legit no BS snipers that are taking dudes out.
Yeah.
And we're using our scouts and everybody to try to find those guys, but ultimately, it come down to bringing in some cool guys in there with some counter sniper teams to help us find them and get rid of them.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a litany of things, man. I mean, because obviously it was IEDs. They had numerous weapons caches, and just it was the Wild West, man.
It's tough when you're fighting an enemy that is so complex because the dynamic of that area is always changing. The culture's changing. The society is almost changing before your eyes. I mean, you've got, whatever, Sudanese, Somali, Chechens, Kurds, people coming in from Turkey probably.
Yep.
You've got every type of dynamic, Saudi probably. You got every type of dynamic of different foreign fighters, probably Iranian Revolutionary Guard. You got so many different dynamics of fighters coming in because they want that city, right? Because Mosul is a, wholly important city. And the complexity of that is that it's always changing, so you can't possibly keep up because there's always different sects doing battle.
No, I mean, you clear it, and then somebody else is going to come in and take it over and keep going. I mean, just 3-4 years ago, the 82nd was back in there clearing it again.
Yeah. Yeah, difficult
Yeah.
place. That I think out of all the cities in Iraq, that's the one that fascinates me the most. There's obviously those incredible battles that the Marines took on Ramadi and Fallujah, and guys from the 82nd and other Army divisions as well. And Baghdad, of course. But Mosul is like the one city that really just kind of blows my mind in Iraq, where I just hear guys come back from there and said, and you got up north, let's just say, you were a little bit unnerved as you got a little closer to the city, it's just, you knew it was going to be a fight no matter what.
Yeah, and I mean, you're so close to the borders up there and everything. It's just easy for all those foreign fighters to come in, and then it's easy for lack of a better term, the warlords to come in and take over.
Right.
Yeah. And, unfortunate for them, they had some dudes that came in and would walk in their backyard and, kick the shit out of them, and they wasn't used to that. So.
Right. Yeah. And I think the understanding for them, though, is that they always know, like, we're going to eventually go home.
We're eventually going to leave.
Yeah.
Because, it's like anything else. We go over there for a few weeks. It's hot and heavy, and then it kind of slows down because they know, hey, we just got to wait them out.
Very true. So, Don, this is something that we tackle very often on this podcast, but talking about this coming home, right, homecoming, was there something different in you? Did you feel different? I know that first tour had affected you, and you were wounded on that first tour, right?
Yeah, I got the first tour. I came home on a medevac bird through Germany to Walter Reed. Yeah.
What happened there?
Well, I got
can't just tell me and then not tell me the story.
I mean, I should have zigged when I zagged and all that good. But no, man, I was in I want to say June. I got selected for Sergeant First Class while we were over there. This is in 2003 and during the invasion. And I got selected for Sergeant First Class, and then I was hoping I'd take a platoon in my company. And Sergeant Major's like, no, you're going to Alpha Company because they need some help. Mm-hmm. So I went over to Alpha Company, took a platoon. My first month with the platoon, we did more probably than they did the whole time they were there, as far as like taking out bad guys and stuff. and it wasn't because of me. It was just because of the missions that popped up.
Right.
Like we had a big clearance op to take out, Muhammad's army guys. We took out one of the big guys on the list. We arrested a bunch of guys, took out bad guys and all. And, I was a young staff sergeant promotable, just young and dumb and ready to go and kick some ass. And we were out there in sector all the time. And, we knew our AO, knew it like the back of our hand. We had a platoon sector that was probably like 10 square blocks.
Yeah.
And basically what had happened was the bad guys put a hit out on me, which they would do back then because they knew the platoons in those sectors and they knew who was doing what. One day, it was October 8th, I had a new PL. He was going to check on some guards we had at the Al Rashid Bank and Outdoor Market in Baghdad, well, outside of the market. And we had 2 Humvees, no doors, no tops. They were regular truck Humvees. And he was going out and he's like, "Hey, Sergeant Mac, you want to go with me?" I was like, "Yeah, I'll go, sir." Me and one of my squad leaders had a little PlayStation, one of the unlocked PlayStations.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget, I had my Dynasty at LSU going on NCAA and everything, and I paused it. But yeah, I was like, "Yeah, sir, I'll go out." So I went out and we went and checked, everything was good. And then when we were coming back out of the market, I told my team leader, Sergeant Bergner, who was riding in the truck with me in the back, I was like, "Hey, dude, jump in the front, get some shade. I'll jump in the back and pull security."
Mm-hmm.
And coming right out of the market, man, they hit my truck with 5.155 rounds tied together. Luckily, they weren't good at IEDs yet, so they had buried them under the asphalt, so the asphalt took, some of the blast. Otherwise, it would have just obliterated the vehicle.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I remember it like it was yesterday, the actual blast, because I was on the back of the truck facing out, felt this big just pressure. And then I remember, I took my left hand and I put it on my face and I seen blood all over it and I was feeling for my weapon because I had it on a D-ring. Mm-hmm. And then the next thing you know, I'm looking up and, Sergeant Bergner's telling me I'm going to make it. And I was like, what the, I'm trying to figure out what's going on. And I had a big, huge piece of shrapnel in my hip and he still says it. When I looked down, he said, all I said was, "Is my junk still there?" So he cut my pants open. He's
Classic.
like, he's like, "It's still there, Sergeant Mac." I mean, I do have shrapnel in it, but, so I had a big piece of shrapnel there. I had a piece that peeled my eyelid back where you could see my skull. My lip was split all the way up to my skull. I had shrapnel in right underneath my temple, my neck. I still have it like all over my knees, legs, and then they did a drive-by with a van, and I got a AK-47 ricochet into my left leg.
Oh, wow.
So,
jeez.
And I got through 30 feet from the vehicle when the vehicle flipped.
Wow.
And I don't know how. I guess it wasn't his day, but a kid was in the back with me, this kid named Friesenberg. He was up on air guard. Mm-hmm. And when the truck flipped up in the air, mm-hmm. he was locked in with a D-ring and a cargo strap. And he rode the truck in, and it landed on top of him, and he didn't get a scratch. Just busted his eardrums.
Wow.
Now, Sergeant Reed, the guy that was driving, because he was on the side I was on,
mm-hmm.
he got really messed up, but mainly in his legs.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, I got through about 30 feet, separated my left shoulder from my clavicle, all that. Man, I couldn't use my arm. When I got to Germany, the doctors told me they were going to take my right eye.
Ooh, wow.
And fortunately, they called a doctor at Walter Reed, and he said, "Hey, get him on the first plane over here and let me look at it first." So I got to Walter Reed, and he told me, he's like, "All your shit's jacked up, but he's like, your eye is the one we really got to worry about." He's like, "Everything else looks real bad." He's like, "But if we don't do something with that eye, you're going to lose it." Yeah. So yeah, he kept me there. He's an ocular trauma specialist, and I don't know what he did, but stabilized my eye because I still have a piece of shrapnel behind my retina.
Wow.
But yeah, I have shrapnel everywhere, and
jeez.
And I was told all my time, Walter Reed, everything, I was going to get med boarded and all this, and I was like I am. And I do remember getting there. My wife and daughters were coming from North Carolina to go there, and the nurse told me that my family had just arrived. It was about, I guess, maybe half a day after I got to Walter Reed or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, "Yeah, your family's coming." So I stood up out of bed. And they were like, "You got to lay down," because I had like open wounds everywhere. And I was like, my little girls are not going to see me laying in a hospital bed. So yeah, and then I stayed there, had I had a bunch of surgeries, and then on my hip and my face, a lot of surgeries on my face, and then well, actually, what was funny is this was before WTB and all that, right? So the next morning, I wake up in the bed, I'm all drugged up, and this pogue staff sergeant, I gotta say it because he shows up, and he's like, "Hey, sergeant, you're gonna have to report to me, once you get out of here every day, blah blah." And I was like, "Who the hell are you?" And he's like, "I'm your platoon sergeant." I was like, "You're my platoon sergeant."
Mm-hmm.
I said, "I'm a goddamn platoon sergeant," so I lost my. I was like, "You ever been in 40? You've been in charge of a 42-man airborne infantry platoon?" He's like, "No." I was like, "Well, you ain't my platoon sergeant,"
Mm-hmm.
So then the captain came in and talked to me, and I told her that there was no way I was going to report to anybody.
Yeah.
So she dealt with that. And then I eventually talked them into working to get me back to Bragg. So it took me till I was in Walter Reed, I guess, for almost 2 months.
Yeah.
And then I got them to send me back down, and I got a doctor out at UNC at Chapel Hill, and I had to see him for like forever for my eye. And when I got out of the hospital, Walter Reed, I had an open wound in my hip that was huge. So my wife literally had to like pack my wounds every day, and I'm still with her. She's like one of the best things that ever happened to me, man. 26 years of marriage, and we're still together.
Yeah.
And she's probably the only thing on this earth I'm scared of.
Yeah.
But yeah, she's awesome, man. And I remember when I fought the med board and told them that I'm staying, I'm not going.
Yeah.
She told me, she's like, "I'm giving you 20 years and that's it." And I was like, "Okay." And then, 25 years later.
Wow.
But yeah, it was, but like you said, the coming home part, I didn't get that the first time. The second time for me, coming home was like, it was so good because my kids got to see, us coming home with the American flags and everybody getting off the birds and all. And and I mean, truthfully, man, when we came back, our second deployment, I felt like we accomplished something because the elections happened, and we were, one of the main reasons that it did go off without a hitch. And yeah, man, I mean, it was just
that improves morale massively.
Yeah, it was just it was a good feeling knowing that we went and did our jobs, and we did it well, and we made it home. And like I've had people over the years ask me, about being wounded and all that. I don't give a shit about none of that. The only thing I cared about was being a soldier, and I knew that that's part of the gig. If it happens, it happens.
Yeah.
But I will tell you this: when we deployed the second time, I had to get waivers and everything to deploy.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember I told he was one of my squad leaders, this guy named Doyle. I said, "Hey man," I was like, "if I punk out, punch me in the face." Excuse my language. He's like, "What do you mean, Sergeant Mac?" I was like, "Dude, everybody says you like freak out. I don't know if I'm gonna I don't know what I'm gonna do if I get, explosions or shot at. After being wounded, I didn't know. Nothing happened in Baghdad, and then when we got to Mosul, our first day in sector, we were in a 3-4 hour firefight. I remember when it was all over, we had moved into this little complex, and Doyle come put his hand on my shoulder. He's like, "Yeah, I think you're good, Sergeant." Because we jacked some up. I was like, "Yeah, I guess I am."
Yeah, that's awesome.
But yeah, you don't know until you because of the trauma,
Right.
But
wow. Okay, so but coming back from that second deployment, did you and the deployment before that, did you notice your mentality changed at all? Did you have hang-ups? Did you have certain things that we won't use that word triggered because I hate that word.
No.
But like, did you notice things that like bothered you? When you came back from that second deployment?
Well, what I noticed, man, is I had no patience anymore. Anything could set me off.
It's hard when you have kids too.
Yeah, and it's not triggers or any of that. It's just you were a guy told me, he said it best. He's like, the whole time you're over there, you're living at 100.
Yeah.
And he's like, when you come back, they expect you to go back down to like 20.
Oh yeah.
So, but your mind can't do that. So, and then you're expecting everything to move every day like it did in combat, and it don't. And that's a big problem that a lot of guys have when they get back, is trying to just mellow out, take that little bit of time, and then kind of smooth back into the family life and back into everything. And
Right.
but the tolerance for BS was terrible. And now what was good is, we were moving and hopping and popping so much as you didn't really have time to contemplate, what the last deployment was, because you're thinking about the next.
Right.
Yeah. So.
Well, that's good. Yeah, probably having like a mission set when you get back, right? Like
Yeah.
something to look forward to. I think
Yeah.
it's just a little different. Like, that question was probably a little bit preemptive, in fact, in that, you weren't getting out of the military, so you still had things to look forward to. I think the real big wall that a lot of guys hit is when they get out of the military, period. And that's a really tough one. But we'll get into that later. So you get back. How long before the third deployment?
Well, I had, let's see. So I got back in 2005, and my third deployment, I deployed in, it was in 2007. I don't remember exactly what month. But I just made the Master Sergeant list, and then I got promoted to Master Sergeant and took a company over in Afghanistan, and I got moved to 4th Brigade, 82nd.
Wow. That's cool. Did you feel, what's that sense of responsibility like when you're doing that?
It was super cool when I made the 8 list, and I was a pretty young guy making it, and then I was like, yeah, I'm excited. I'm getting a company. I'm going to combat with a company, and then when I actually got on the bird to go over there, because they were already deployed, I deployed late because I moved over to 4th Brigade. I was like, holy man, it really set in. I was like, I'm gonna be the first sergeant of these guys over here. I'm responsible for 100 and something guys. And
That's
I said,
a lot of responsibility.
and in my mind, the odds of losing somebody were much greater.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a stressful time getting ready. Getting my mind right, getting over there. But once I got there, I integrated into the company, and then I told myself, just like I was always taught, and by my good first sergeants, is, I'm not going to be a nice guy. I'm not going to be their freaking friend. I'm going to be their first sergeant.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's what I was. Fortunately, I caught the tail end of the deployment, so 5-6 months of it.
Okay.
And it was, we had some stuff happen, but it was pretty quiet because most of it was wintertime.
Right.
So.
Where were you guys at?
In Ghazni, Wardak province.
Oh, yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, we were there. And
what was the difference in the dynamics between Iraq and Afghanistan for you? What did you notice the most?
all the when I went to Afghanistan the first time, the op tempo was so much slower at that time, and I think it was because it just hadn't kicked up as much because Iraq was still, especially during the surge.
Mm-hmm.
So it was slower, and it was different terrain and a much different fight.
Yeah.
So I put Iraq out of my head. I was like, Iraq doesn't matter. We're in Afghanistan. It's a totally different place, different enemy. We got to figure it out.
Yeah.
So
That's awesome.
yeah.
What is it like? What is your philosophy on leadership going into something like that? Like, how do you view yourself? How did you view yourself at the time?
Well, I mean, I never really thought about like viewing myself, but what I did do was I focused on, if it makes sense to you, being seen. If you're out there with the guys and the guys see you, then they're probably going to follow you.
Right.
Now, sometimes they don't want to see you because they're like, that ass coming up here again, because you're going to scuff them up for something.
Right.
But the leadership part of it, man, is in my mind was, it's all about, I didn't care what was going on in the company before I got there. But for me, it was all about discipline and being a leader and not being a friend. And that's hard for a lot of guys, especially during that time, to deal with because the guys are going through so much. They're going to deployments back to back to back. So a lot of times, a lot of those leaders would think they were taking care of guys by taking care of them.
Right.
And at the end of the day, you're really not. You're hurting them in the long run. So, yeah, like one of the first things I did was I caught a dude messing up on a guard tower.
Mm-hmm.
So as soon as he got off guard, I made him write actually, that was the second guy. I made him write a 5,000-word essay on duties and responsibility and number every word. And then before that, no, I'm sorry. Actually, yeah, it was when we were redeploying. We were at Salerno, and one of my medics came in, and he was a newer guy, and I didn't recognize him. And then I saw him, and he had a name tag on it that said McLovin. And I said, "Come here." He's like, "Roger, First Sergeant." I was like, "I know your name ain't McLovin. I know everybody's name in this company." And he was like, "It was a name tag I had made." So yeah, I scuffed him as platoon sergeant and his squad leader up pretty damn good. It was they had some pain for a couple days.
Yeah, I'm sure.
But then after that, I called the kid McLovin for the next couple of years. So. But he was a good kid.
Yeah,
He was just being funny.
Yeah. So, you get back from the third deployment, you come home.
Yep.
And then how soon after that was the fourth?
A year later.
Year later, okay.
Yeah.
So where were you headed this time?
Well, this time at first, so the brigade had got a. We were on the patch chart to go be an advise and assist brigade in RC South. And as we got closer to the deployment, our battalion, was still doing advise and assist, but they needed to send one company down to Helmand and Lashkar and Nawa with the Marines and the Brits because of the fighting going on down there. Mm-hmm. And they selected, my company as we were always the main effort for the battalion. Like we did, I had the best commander in the damn battalion.
Yeah.
And, so our mission for the brigade and battalion was advise and assist, but BCO's mission was actually, we went down as a, basically a combat multiplier for the Brits and the Marines.
Okay.
Now, we did do some advising as far as like with the Afghan police and the border patrol and stuff. We took them out on patrols and missions and stuff like that. Did a lot of big clearance ops.
Right. How was that?
It was, they were trying.
Yeah.
But it was early on. They had the A&A academies up and running and all that stuff, but you know how that goes.
Right.
Train them, and then the next thing you know, you go to a checkpoint and they're all asleep and doing whatever. So. And we're not going to talk about all the stuff they do.
Yeah, I'm sure.
But
this would quickly become an X-rated podcast.
Yeah. But yeah, we were down, we were in Helmand, and we did a little shoot 'em up with the Brits and the Marines. I had a platoon with the Marines down in Nawa. I want to say it was either 3-6 or 2-6 for the Marines, and then we were at Lashkar with the Brits, and we conducted a lot of operations out there. One of our first couple patrols, I had a platoon got ambushed on Highway 1, mm-hmm. and the platoon did a textbook react to contact and took out the bad guys, and then there was all kind of radio chatter that the commandos were in town and they needed to stay off the highway and all that stuff,
Yeah.
So, but
wow.
Yeah.
That's cool.
But yeah, while we were down there, it was like second week in November. I remember my battalion commander and sergeant major had drove down from Kandahar, and it was about 120K. And they got to us, and then the commander pulled me and my company commander out to the side and said, "Hey guys, we got battle space." And I was like, "That's cool." And he's like, "Yeah, we're moving into the Arghandab River Valley up in Kandahar." And I was like, "Okay, that place is."
Mm-hmm.
And then he explained to us.
Were you more worried about that area than Helmand?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. And he was like, he explained this to us that the unit that was there before us, I'm not going to say who they are because, we all talk mess about the unit before us. And
Right, yeah.
And I'm not going to say anything because I wasn't in their fight. I was just in my fight.
Right, yeah.
But they pulled them out after a couple months because they had taken so many casualties.
Jeez.
And so we were going down, up to Kandahar to take the mission to clear the Arghandab and control it and keep the Taliban from getting into Kandahar city. And the battalion commander told me and the CO right there on the spot, he's like, "Hey, guys, y'all know y'all are the main effort. You're going to be smack dab in the middle of the valley when we do the clearance operation, and you're going to stay there."
Wow.
And he's like, "You're going to take casualties, and it's going to be tough." And we're talking to him, and he I never forget, he told me, he looked me in the eye, and he's like, "I would send another company in, but they're not ready."
Yeah.
He's like, "You guys are." And and I get it now. The best units get the hardest missions.
Yeah, as it should be.
And it wasn't that we were better than the other guys. We just, I had our company had just come together. A lot of the guys were still there from the first deployment, and
good chemistry, good discipline,
real good platoon sergeants.
Yeah.
So yeah, it worked out. We went into the valley on December 19th of 09, and little did we know, I gave guys a go to war speech and all that, like, excuse my language, like first sergeants do all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And, and at the end of that deployment, all the guys told me that was the first time in their career that the go to war speech actually came true.
Wow.
But I can tell you, man, and I did another deployment after that one, but that deployment still haunts me, man. It was truly hell on earth. Like
Really?
it was the hardest thing, for me as a senior guy, pushing my guys through this every day, and they're seeing their buddies get jacked up from booby traps and all this, and you're walking in all this AO that looks like freaking Vietnam,
Mm-hmm.
and your buddy gets blown up right beside you, and there's no bad guy to kill,
Yeah.
and yet your mission is not in there to kill bad guys. Your mission is in there to dominate the terrain, close it out, and keep anybody from coming in.
Right. So you're almost in a defensive maneuver position.
Yeah. But the problem is the bad guys are already there.
Right.
They live in the valley.
Yeah.
And they know the valley. So
You're playing defense on offense,
yep,
essentially.
Yep,
Wow.
defense on offense.
Yeah.
And the only way to dominate that fight is you have to constantly be out in the battle space.
Yeah.
You can't sit on a cop. You can't sit in a defense.
Right.
You got to be on the offense, but while you're on the offense, you got to be in the defense.
Yeah.
So it's and that fight was so, just the mental aspect of it was it was crazy, man. I mean, like I said, we went in on December 19th, conducted a clearance operation. I had to find a place to set up a combat outpost, and the only place I could find was a radish field,
Wow.
and it had 2 walls and then 2 orchards.
Mm.
And it was just raining nasty. And I remember the battalion commander was out there because we did the big clearance op. We actually didn't face any resistance going in.
Typical Taliban
Yeah.
effort.
And it was winter, so the greenery wasn't there, so they knew we could see them too.
Right.
But the battalion commander, told me, "All right, this is where you're gonna set it up." I was like, "Roger, sir." I was like, "What kind of assets am I gonna get in here?" And at that time, like, no kind of air resupply or anything would fly in the valley because it was too dangerous.
Wow.
Because they would get shot down.
Yeah.
So we had one lock in and out, and for those of you listening that don't know what a lock is a line of communication, basically a road. But we had one road in and out. It was tiny. You couldn't get a PLS or anything on it into the valley. So I told the commander that day, I was like, "Well, sir, the only way I'm going to get my equipment in here to set up a combat outpost is if you let me use Humvees." And they had it, because the first part of the deployment, the battalion had Humvees, and then that was when they got outlawed in country where you couldn't use them anymore because they were just getting obliterated.
Right. Yeah.
Because they started getting MATVs. And
Yeah.
so they made an exception for me. So me and my guys, for about...
What do you call them, like coffins on wheels?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But for about 72 hours, we were making GACs with Humvees and trailers, bringing all our in from Walton.
Jeez.
And I remember I had my buddy was the FSC first sergeant, and I ran into his hooch in Walton. I was like, "Hey man, these 2 big 60K generators I got, can your wrecker pick them up?" And he's like, "Yeah, why?" I was like, "Well, I need you to put them on a trailer." He's like, "Dude, what kind of trailer?" I was like, "The Humvee trailers." He's like, "Those things can't go on a Humvee trailer?" I was like, "Yeah, I know, and I can't drive a Humvee right now either, but that's happening." So he put them. They put them on the trailers for us. We drove them in there best we could without flipping them over, and we pulled into the radish field with them, and wherever they sunk in the mud, that's where they stayed the whole deployment.
Wow.
And we just built around that. And our first 96 hours, man, my guys might have got an hour's sleep a night.
Wow.
And like the 3rd or 4th day, they were all feeling sorry for themselves. So like 4 o'clock in the morning, I'll never forget. And these guys told the story when we did our reunion. I pulled the whole company in because we were all together at that point. and I just went ballistic,
Mm-hmm.
and like I told him, I was like, nobody cares about your feelings right now. I don't care that you're tired. Bad guy out there don't care that you're tired. But I was like, I tell you what, a month from now, after you've been patrolling your butt off every day, you're going to want to have somewhere to come back to and be secure.
Yeah.
So if we don't build it now, we ain't going to build it.
Right.
So they busted their asses, and made it happen. I mean, man, we carried in our own HESCOs, everything, put them up, had them up for three months with no dirt in them.
Wow.
Because we couldn't get any kind of assets back there because it was too dangerous.
Jeez.
And yeah, it was crazy, man. And I took my first casualty the day after Christmas.
Wow.
I had a squad hit. I had one kid was KIA, and then one was an amputee, and then 2 others were wounded.
Wow.
Yeah.
What's a feeling like that in leadership when that goes down and that happens?
It's just everything just sinks to the bottom of your stomach. And then, on that deployment, I tell you, as a first sergeant, being the guy that had to show up on the X and make all the guys that are there calm down and do their freaking jobs. And it's not that they weren't, but you know how it is, man. You take casualties, it's mass confusion, everybody's freaking out. So all I constantly told myself was I got to be the dude that keeps these kids, keeps their head in the game.
Right.
And so yeah, I got out there actually when that happened, myself and the platoon sergeant of that platoon, first platoon, because they were out with a squad and their PL checking out this grape orchard we wanted to check out. He was actually showing me some of the guard positions because he was working the guard outside for me. And while we were out there, we saw the explosion and heard it, and we knew it was them, so we busted ass and got into the talk, and then we heard it all, and we got out there. And, we got the guys evac'd. We had the pararescue guys come in and get them, Pedro.
Yeah.
And, the squad leader that was on the ground, he's dead now himself, but we get all the guys out of there. We get Johnston's body out of there, and I'm looking for him. And I asked his PL, I was like, where the hell is the squad leader? He's like, well, he's over by a tree, First Sergeant. And he pointed out where he was at, and I went over there. And I looked at him, and he was crying.
Mm-hmm.
Grabbed him by the chin strap, and I pulled his helmet to mine, and I said, look, man. I said, there's no time for that right now.
Yeah.
I said, your boys are over there. You're going to get your ass up, and you're going to get them to pull in security and do what the hell they're supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, you got to remember, man, what do I always tell you? This is a freaking roller coaster ride. You don't get off from it till it's finished. I was like, if you're at Six Flags, are you going to step off a roller coaster midway through?
Yeah.
No.
No.
So I told him there's no time for that on the X. And, and then, we got him back that night. We brought another element out to secure the AO so we could do the SSC the next morning. And that night when we got them back to the cop, he came and talked to me, and he wanted to tell me that he was sorry he let me down.
Yeah.
And I told him, I was like, don't be sorry for man. I said, all I want to see is that you're going to get out there and do your job.
Right.
Which he did. He wound up being, one of my best squad leaders. He's just a young guy and never, and the kid that got killed was, a real good friend of his.
Yeah.
Then next thing you know, he's a squad leader, So it's hard, man. And then to be the guy that's out there with him, the old guy that puts a boot in there and acts, they think he has no feelings is hard,
Yeah. Yeah. You're just taking from that old model of the 82nd soldier, from World War II. There's no time for that, man.
No, there's not.
You got to move. Even in death, the ultimate goal still has to remain the mission.
Yeah.
And it's easier said than done.
It is.
And, I think in some ways, I think about this often. You got some hard chargers nowadays, of course, but it's nobody's fault. But society's just not built the way that it was.
No.
You had a lot of people experiencing back then a lot of death before they even got overseas. Yeah. So, and then life was just hard. The Great Depression. They, in a way, carved out the perfect warrior. That's one of the things about living in a very comfortable society, is even as bad as you can have it over here, it's nothing compared to that.
There. Yeah.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
But probably a lot of what you're doing is having to give guys a wake-up call.
Yeah. I can tell you, man, and if there's any guys out there listening right now that are still in, You gotta. What I tell guys all the time still is, leadership is a lonely place. If you're doing your job, you got to remember, if you're doing your job, you're not anybody's friend.
Yeah.
And that's hard for a lot of guys to fathom. And like I said, when you think you're taking care of guys because First Sergeant says, hey, make sure you're wearing your uniform right and doing all that, and then when he leaves, you let him do whatever.
Yeah.
What does that tell those guys?
Yeah. You don't respect the chain of command.
Yeah, and it's okay to not follow instructions.
Right, exactly.
And then next thing you know, that kid's on a guard tower somewhere or whatever, he falls asleep or he takes his helmet off and he gets shot in the head. You know, everything that you do in the military, you do for a reason. Just you don't understand it until you start moving up and the blinders come off.
Yeah, I think about that often with basic training, you know, being in Knox, and like I think one of my shirt rolls was like a 1/4 centimeter off once.
Yeah.
And like drill sergeant came over and like, you know, rolled it and checked it.
Yeah.
And just, you know, proceeded to scream at me for like 15 minutes about the shirt. And then, you know, in the moment I was 17 years old and I was just like, oh my gosh. But then I remember afterwards immediately thinking kind of what my dad had talked about before, you know, where it's like, you know, attention to detail. And they always, you know, on the way up, on a push-up, attention to detail. Yep. And then on the way down, teamwork is key. You know, that was always something that was, they were teaching us.
Yeah.
One round, not in that magazine.
Yeah.
Gets your buddy killed.
Yeah. But at the time, you don't understand that.
Oh, no,
because
it's insanity.
You just think this guy's a total a-hole.
Yeah.
You know, he's just doing it for fun. You know, like I have guys that ask me, you know, what's the best thing about being retired?
Yeah.
And truly the best thing about being retired is not having to be in 247. I mean, really, because it's tiring. If you're doing your job right, it's tiring. And I'm not saying, you know, you're out there just yelling at your guys and willy-nilly, but as a senior leader or any kind of leader, you got to be the guy that they both fear and respect.
Right.
You know, but you also, it's a slippery slope because you also have to figure out how to be approachable.
Right.
And you know what that comes from, you know, if you are hard, but you are fair.
Yeah.
And they know that no matter what, you got their back, then they will approach you if they have an issue. They'll talk to you, you know, they'll want to pick your brain, you know. And also if you catch one of them doing something dumb, scuff them up, see them an hour later, say, hey, bud, how's it going? Yeah. And they'll look at you like you're crazy.
Yeah.
But you done forgot about what just happened.
Right,
you know?
right.
Because they fixed a deficiency.
Yeah.
Because it's not personal, it's business.
Yeah, it's business. It's got to happen. You're a soldier. Your job is to, in the end, you know, your job is to kill. And if you're not doing it effectively, you got to be corrected. Yeah.
And, you know, I have guys ask me this all the time, too. You know what truly prepares you for combat?
What?
Garrison.
Yeah.
It does.
Yeah.
Garrison is where discipline comes in, attention to detail, getting yourself in shape, doing all those things that totally suck. Because what do we all want to do? Go out to the field and shoot guns and do all this.
Yeah, of course.
But, you know, if you're not disciplined, then you can't go out to the field and do all that other stuff the right way.
Right.
So discipline is key, man. And Garrison, especially back in Spitshine days and all that stuff, Garrison really sucked.
Yeah, I'm sure.
But, yeah, it truly got you ready for combat, though, because you understood that if something had to be done, it had to be done right, done the first time, and knock it out. And don't BS about it, you know, just move out. And if somebody tells you to go stand over there and they don't say anything else, you just stand over there.
Yeah.
Follow instructions.
Yep. So, you know, we were talking about this third deployment. I'm sure it didn't just all go hunky-dory from there. No, it got worse and worse. Yeah. Tell us about that. Yeah, it was just, you know, our mission, like I said, we had to control that valley. We had to clear all the villages in it, and basically, what we did was we moved from where we were at, and we built 3 other combat outposts within the valley. But believe it or not, our AO was only about a 10 square mile. It was pretty small. Yeah, we, you know, after that, we started finding IEDs. We were figuring out TTPs. And when I say IEDs, it was booby traps, PMN mines, attached to 25-pound jugs of HME, stuff like that. Jeez. Tripwires through wheat fields, tripwires in the orchards, Golly.
anti-tampering devices inside culottes. I mean, it was just anything you could think of,
Yeah.
they would do.
Yeah.
And their whole goal was, they weren't even trying to really kill us. They were trying to fix us so they could have freedom of movement.
Right.
They were trying to keep us from patrolling through that valley so they could just walk out and do what they want.
Right.
But we couldn't let that happen, so we had to constantly stay out. And, we had to adjust our TTPs all the time. Like, for example, infantry squad, when they're out in the open, they use a wedge formation, right?
Right.
Spread out, everything like that.
Yeah.
Well, wedge formation didn't make sense for us, so we walked in a file out in the open, and it was weird going against everything that you're taught, but at the same time, you have to adapt and you got to figure out what works.
Right.
It's just
and that wedge in the principle behind that file formation, right? Because there's so many booby traps and IED possibilities that you want to always stay in the other guy's footsteps.
Stay in the footsteps, and the guy up front's clearing. And if something does happen, hopefully it's just one guy instead of four.
Right. Yeah.
And when you do that, you're, like I said, you're patrolling every day. The guys, we'd have to explain to them too, because they were just smoke, man. Squads would do 2-3 patrols a day.
Jeez.
And these are foot patrols through a crappy ass valley where you're crossing 8-10 foot walls, walking through 4-foot canals.
Yeah.
Because you can't take the path of least resistance. You can't take trails or anything like that because you're going to get blown up.
Right.
But what we had to make guys understand is the reason we got to stay out is because we have to understand our area. We have to dominate it, but we also have to understand the patterns of life.
Yeah.
Because if one thing's out of place and that AO, you're going to know that's out of place.
Right.
But where does that come from? Attention to detail.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Those
things, small things back in garrison.
But also, we had to, we worked hard to make our guys understand that no idea was a dumb idea. Every idea we would take into account. Because, I had one of my team leaders come up to me one day. He's like, "Hey, First Sergeant, look what I got in the mail." I was like, "What the hell?" It was a little Spider-Man fishing pole that you can fold.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, "What you going to do with that?" He had a 1-out seeker on it. He's like, "Tripwires, First Sergeant." I was like, "Holy, I didn't even think about that." So I was like, "You are authorized to carry that."
Yeah.
But it's just dudes thinking outside the box, like we found on that deployment, CO and I were just together a couple months ago again, and we were talking about it, but we found 96 IEDs.
Jeez.
And we had 26 or 29 strikes against us. Yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, it was just crazy. And, the first couple times we got hit, we didn't really understand the TTPs. And if you look back around 2009, there was no, before you deployed, doing dismounted IED training and booby traps and all that stuff.
Right.
It didn't exist. Now it does. But, so we had to figure it out as we went. And I had never even heard of a PM in mine,
Mm-hmm.
But
explain that for people who don't understand.
So it's their legacy. They're basically anti-personnel mines, and they're designed kind of like a toe popper. It's designed to like take off a foot.
Okay.
If there's a PM in mine, you're not going to pick it up with a metal detector. It's all plastic.
Mm.
And what they would do was they would use those as the initiation device. And they would have a 10 meter or so deck cord attached to it to a big vegetable ghee jug of HME, homemade explosive, ammonium nitrate.
Right.
So whoever stepped on the PMM mine was either going to lose their foot, toe, something like that. But then one of the guys behind them, 10 meters back, was going to get killed.
Wow.
And that's the way they designed it. And it was like, every day we were finding them.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't like some, you're walking across an open area and there's this obvious IED. It was, holy, something don't feel right.
Yeah.
Like for instance, those guys were so good that I had a guy got hit really bad. He took the route he could to the highest point in the wall,
mm-hmm.
and still stepped on the IED at the wall.
Jeez.
And we were like, how the hell did they know they were going to cross there?
Yeah.
Well, when we go back and we do the SSE, the bad guys that actually taken limbs and leaves and stuff like that and just made them look natural, but spread them around to where it naturally just channelized those guys into that spot.
Golly. Wow.
But I was thinking, that's ingenuity at its finest, and that's knowing how the human mind thinks, because subconsciously you think you're doing the right thing because you're going to this AO, you're taking the tall spot in the wall. There can't be nothing there.
Wow.
But yet there's these little things around that just kind of funnel you in without you even knowing it.
Jeez. Wow.
But that's the kind of stuff we faced every day. And on that deployment, I had seen a lot of stuff on all my deployments and a lot of back, but there's nothing like just, it seems like every other day, you're evacing somebody or you're holding their hand, telling them they're going to make it when they're missing limbs and all this, it haunted us, man. And it still does. But the one thing that those guys from BCO know, and we did that big reunion a couple months ago, is they know that they did something that most people couldn't have accomplished.
Yeah.
And it was due to them being a team, and because even in the Army, people can quit.
Oh, absolutely.
People think that's not a thing, but
yeah,
if you say you're not going on patrol, I can't put a gun to your head and make you go patrol.
Right.
I can make sure you get in trouble and lose rank and like that, but I can't physically make you go. And and as well as I do, there are people that have quit over there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It happened even in World War II.
Yeah.
And they'll talk about guys sitting and crying on the beach.
And and I and we had in our battalion, there were guys that quit in other companies, but not in mine. And the reason is because all those guys, they were there for each other. I remember him telling me, this was like May or so, I was talking to a bunch of guys. I'm like, yeah, we're figuring this out, man. We're finding them. We're going to, the guys are like, hey, First Sergeant, ain't no big deal, at least we know as long as you guys can stop the bleeding, we're going to be okay and we're going to be out of here. So.
That $1 million wound.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking for that one.
Like I had one kid.
The deployment's bad.
Yeah, like one kid loses his leg and I see him at the hospital and he's like, hey, at least I'm not in that damn valley anymore.
Wow.
But he's just being, but.
Yeah, it's that bad though. It's
yeah.
tough.
Like we conducted a big operation into the IED makers village. And one night, man, we took, one KIA, I think 6 casualties, but all of them were serious.
Yeah.
So, and that was a company operation, but it was a company minus because we had one platoon that was at one of their cops. But each platoon had taken a couple casualties, so we were pretty much combat ineffective.
Jeez.
So we had to fall back, and I've never done that on any kind of deployment.
Yeah.
And that night, for the first time in my military career, I felt defeated.
Yeah.
Because we had all those guys got hit, and we didn't make it into that village.
Yeah.
So.
Wow.
I remember the CO and I were there. I lost my best squad leader in the company that day, and that was a real hard day. And that night we were talking, and we both said, we got to go back. And I was like, yes, sir. And I was like, let's get some aircraft and let's air assault inside that so they can't stop us from getting in.
Yeah.
And it took us about a month, but we finally got the aircraft, and we patrolled out to 5 Walton and got on the aircraft and went in, and we cleared from the river in where they couldn't blow us up.
Yeah.
And we took that place, and we set up a cop right in the middle of that village called Cop Brunkhorst after Brunk.
Wow.
My guy that got killed. But yeah. And the guys needed that, they needed to get in there because, Brunk was that kid that was a superstar,
Yeah.
He was my go-to squad leader.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, he's gone, just.
Wow.
And that night we had a couple amputees, and it was just from trying to walk in at night. It even got, those deployments get so bad, people don't realize what infantrymen do. And, anybody could be on the outside looking in and say, oh, well, somebody messed something up or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But you're not there, man. You don't understand it. And even for me, it was hard for me to even agree. But the CO told me, he's like, First Sergeant, we got to stop patrolling at night.
Yeah.
And I was like, sir, we can't.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, but we can't see these things at night, which he was right,
Yeah.
So what we did was we started setting up NAIs, overwatch positions, ambushes. So we take guys out, infill them during the day, and put them up at night. And when we started doing that is when we really started catching the bad guys.
Yeah.
So we were finally getting some redemption. You know?
Sounds like a good leadership move from the officer there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, he was a great company commander.
Yeah.
And he and I, we complimented each other so well because we kept each other grounded, you know.
Yeah.
You know, in my mind, I was so go, 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 and so was he. But at the same time, you know, there were times where each one of us had to take a step back and tell the other one, hey, hold up for a second. Let's figure this shit out. You know? That deployment, man, when I was on that deployment, I told myself, after this, I'm not deploying again. I'm going to go take a TDA job and I'm done.
Yeah.
You know, because I couldn't handle writing letters to moms anymore. And I couldn't handle how many times I'd just been sitting there with a kid holding his hand, telling him everything's going to be okay when his legs freaking just blown off and there's body parts everywhere. And I never forget my sergeant major. He told me, he's like, well, what if you make the sergeant major list? And I was like, well, that's not going to happen because I'm too young and it's my first look and I didn't even have a DA photo.
Mm-hmm.
Then that deployment, he come back, hey, man, you made the sergeant major list. I was like, geez.
Oh, gosh.
And, you know, when we got back from that, man, I was so tired.
Yeah.
Like, literally, I was, you know, and I don't know if it was just that deployment or a culmination of everything up to it. You know, I told myself when I got back, because I had time, is I'm going to go to the Sergeant Major Academy. I'm gonna take a step back. I'm going to get my head right. Mm-hmm. I'm going to stay in the game, and then maybe from all this I've learned, maybe as a Sergeant Major, I could do some good. You know, so yeah, I went to Sergeant Major Academy after the deployment, and then I got sent down to Fort Polk, and I was a Brigade Ops Sergeant Major for deployment, and then, well, actually, I was a Battalion Ops Sergeant Major when I got there, and then they moved me up to Brigade. I was Brigade Ops for our 2013-14 deployment.
Okay.
And I competed to come back to Bragg, and I got my first choice and came back as the 2508 CSM, the same battalion I was the first sergeant in. It was such a good feeling to come home.
Yeah.
Because I knew the history of the battalion and what they had been through.
Yeah.
It felt redeeming, and it felt like maybe I was giving a little, you know, I was giving something back. But yeah, man, that Arghandab deployment, man, I mean, I could, you know, I'm not going to tell war stories all day and all. I mean, there's so many.
Yeah.
But I would tell anybody listening to this, I've got a lot of combat experience, and I've saw a lot of bad things, and I've done a lot of shoot 'em up.
Yeah.
But until you're in a fight like that just literally, you're fighting a ghost, man.
Yeah.
But you still have to fight every day.
Yeah.
You know, that is harder than getting shot at 24 hours a day. It truly is, because at least when you're getting shot at, you feel like you got a chance.
Right.
You know, but when the enemy's a ghost and when the greenery is so bad that you can't get ISR or you can't get anything, or they have little pockets that you can't get to, and anytime an aircraft comes in, it gets an RPG at it or whatever. It's hell, man.
Yeah.
And it's not like in you're getting shot at all the time. It's like in I'm literally living in hell. I'm living a every day. It's like Groundhog Day. I'm going out there and I'm hoping nobody gets blown up. We got to go through here. We got to make sure this area is clear again and this and that. And it was rough, man, but we did it.
Yeah.
I was so mad on that deployment. Our last month or so in country, we got given a mission to go down to another town called Kukuran and clear it and set up another cop. Mm-hmm. And by that time, I was down to 19 guys per platoon.
Jeez.
Because everybody else had been evac'd and everything else.
Oh, my gosh.
And I remember I told the battalion S3, me and the CO, we're like, we don't have the combat power, man. How do you expect us to go do this? Mm-hmm. And the other unit that it came in, the brigade, said they wanted our company to do it because we knew the valley the best, which I understood that. But they were taking us out to go clear this village, and then they were taking a company from across the river and putting them in our cop. And then, like we said, you know, if that happens, they're going to get hit. We're going to go down there. We're going to get hit, and we just don't have the bodies.
Yeah.
But anyway, long story short, we voiced our concerns, but we still had to go do it.
Yeah.
So they augmented us with a platoon from one of the other companies, and we went down and did it, and we took a couple casualties, but we accomplished the mission yet again and set up another cop, and we called that one Cop Karen for one of my other guys that was killed. You know, and that was the first time on that deployment that we actually had support, because that village was close to the highway out of the valley.
Yeah.
You know, I could tell stories all day long, like, you know, 500-pound V-bid out there.
Jeez.
You know, my squad leader that was on the ground that was Johnston's squad leader in March or April, he got hit by a suicide bomber, took 2 big ball bearings through his chest. Yeah, it was crazy
Jeez.
out there, man.
Wow.
Yeah.
Rough.
Yeah.
Rough environment.
And you know, like I told you, man, we did that Operation Resiliency thing with the Independence Fund and the DOD and the VA. And they got 100 of my guys, man. We got them to show up, and we all got together back in April.
Yeah.
Some of them have been out of the Army, 10 years now.
Wow.
It was so great that weekend, man, because a lot of those guys had some closure.
Yeah.
Because you think about it, man. You get out of the Army as a young sergeant or a specialist, right?
Right.
That's where you're at right then.
Mm-hmm.
But fast forward 10 years in the future when you're more mature and you understand things,
Yeah.
then you're able to, comprehend why things were done and why you did what you did and why you had to do what you had to do.
Right.
And it was really good to have a lot of guys tell me and the CO at the time we didn't really understand how important it was and why we were out there doing this, and now we do.
Yeah.
So
That's cool.
yeah. So
Since closure for you as well.
yeah, it was a lot. I had a lot of reservations about going because I was such a hard ass, and I know a lot of the guys, I thought they hated me,
Yeah.
but they really didn't. I had so many guys that weekend come hug me and tell me thank you, and they said if I wouldn't have been there, it would have been a lot worse.
Yeah.
And they know that.
Wow.
And and that's why I tell guys, man, it ain't a popularity contest. It ain't about being their friend, man.
Yeah.
If you truly care about guys and you're out there with them every freaking day and you bust your, you're willing to do what they're going to do, but you make sure that they do what they have to do to stay alive and be a soldier,
Yeah.
they're going to respect you.
Yeah.
And it's a hard thing, and especially when you move up to those senior positions, because you can easily just sit back and not be out there every day and not, my advice to anybody listening, whether you're civilian, military, whatever, be seen.
Mm-hmm.
Whoever you're in charge of, let them know you're there.
Yeah.
And that means a lot.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, you got out a few years back, as Command Sergeant Major.
Yeah.
Massive, accomplishment. I mean, for those of you that don't understand, that's as high as you can get on the enlisted side. You can't go up from that, unless you're, Command Sergeant Major of the Army or whatever. But
Yeah.
you're not going any higher than that. That's as good as it gets.
Yeah.
So, what was it like getting out? I mean, you achieved this massive accomplishment, right?
Yeah.
And you do 25 years.
Yeah.
25 years, and then you're done.
Yeah. And well, to tell you the truth, at 25 years, I really wasn't ready to get out.
No.
I mean,
You wanted more, huh?
Well, I mean, I made the decision because I broke my neck and had to get a fusion done on my spine.
Oh, wow.
But
Did you break your neck?
jumping.
Oh.
But I didn't know it until 3 jumps later.
Oh, jeez.
You know how that goes.
Yeah, I don't, but
But I had to get
Sounds awful.
I had to get a fusion done, and my last 6 months in position, I was told I couldn't jump anymore, and it was so horrifying, man, because I was always that guy out there doing everything with everybody.
Yeah.
And I was told I couldn't jump anymore, and then I'm like, well, how the can I be their sergeant major,
Yeah.
And I remember the division sergeant major was like, hey, man, you got 6 months left in position. You're still their sergeant major, man. You're not going to be able to jump out of an airplane for 6 months, but hey, just make sure they're ready to jump out of airplanes,
Yeah.
It was so hard because after all I'd been through and all the crap I'd seen, my body had finally told me, hey, dude, enough's enough,
Enough's enough.
And I look back on it and I remember, doctors telling me when I was wounded and everything, that aged me 10 years and all that.
Yeah.
But that's why I always focused to be in good shape and everything. And I was so torn, man. Like I got offered a job to go work, at Big Corps and everything. And I remember I went and had lunch with the guy who was my brigade sergeant major in the Arghandab, and he was my battalion sergeant major when I was wounded. And I respect him so much, man. This guy named Sergeant Major Flowers. He's a legend.
Mm-hmm.
And we had lunch. And yeah, I'm not you. As soon as we sit down, he's like, before you say anything, Mac, retire. And that was exactly what he told me. And I was like, Sergeant Major, you're not even gonna hear me out. He's like, look, man.
Yeah.
He's like, you got to understand something. You're the type of guy that if you stay in, you're just going to continue to hurt yourself.
Right.
And he's like, and you're at a point right now, if you stayed in, you wouldn't even have to hurt yourself, but you're going to.
Yeah.
And he's like, why? He's like, don't you want to be able to hold your grandbabies?
Yeah.
You know? He's like, you don't have anything to prove, man, and you don't owe anybody anything. And that's hard for you to understand, you know, when you get to a point to where, you know, I kind of felt like I was at that point in my career to where I was going to be that old guy that could be a liability, you know?
Right, yeah.
But, you know, I took his advice, and he was right, man. I mean, it was time.
Yeah.
Now, I will say I wasn't mentally right for it.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I thought I was good. You know, I mean, the Arghandab was hard. So I finished my time out. You know how most guys, when they're senior and they retire, they have like a year of doing jacking. You know,
Right.
they just chill, right?
Yeah.
Wasn't my case.
No.
Because the brigade was deploying. The new sergeant major came in, took my spot for the deployment. And then the brigade sergeant major and the division sergeant major asked me to be the brigade sergeant major rear while they were gone. So I did it, obviously, even though, you know, I should have been focusing on retirement.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did that. And, you know, I didn't really have time to think about stuff. And, you know, it was about a month or two before I was getting out. My wife and my best friend, Cavazos, they basically had a come to Jesus meeting with me and told me that I needed to go get help.
Yeah.
Both of them. Told me I had issues, that I wasn't the same dude. And I was in a bad place, man. And I went, and, you know, and I'm glad I'm able to talk about this now because it lets guys know that, hey, dude, even dudes like old hard Major Mac, you know, needs help. But, you know,
it's massive, man. It really does help.
Yeah. I went to see a psychologist. I made an appointment. Luckily, she was great. I went in there and told her, first words out of my mouth was, there ain't wrong with me. You know, my wife and my friends, I'm just stressed out about retiring, you know.
Yeah.
And she started talking to me, and, you know, they know how to bring things out. And an hour into it, man, I was bawling my eyes out. And I'm like, oh, my God, I'm all jacked up, you know. And I went, and I went through therapy. I did stuff that I needed to do to work out some of the guilt I had and the anger. Had a lot of anger. I could have easily quit it. Nobody's going to make you, especially the sergeant major, do anything. Like, nobody even knew I was going to see her, you know, except for my wife. And I didn't even tell her what it was about. But
I mean, you're a sergeant major. Everybody's just trying to avoid you. Let's be honest.
Yeah. But you know what made me, you know, it kind of took my blinders off, because we always tell dudes to suck it up. We always tell dudes to drive on. We always tell them you got to police yourself up. But at the same time, you know, I hadn't really policed myself up.
Yeah.
You know, I never took time to fix myself, and because of the mission and because of the job, you don't really think about it, man, because you're so focused on the next operation.
I think that's where it becomes a problem, you know, and you would know this better than I do. But I think that's where it becomes a real issue, is when that attitude of, like, suck it up, buttercup, you know, drive on, attack the objective, there's no time to cry. I think where that gets jacked up is when you get back into garrison and we're still talking to guys like that, you know? Like, hey, man, I remember watching, like, a National Geographic special on 10th Group in Afghanistan, and, like, their commander was like, you know, they had one of their guys got killed on mission. They all had a toast, and they all, you know, threw their, you know, water bottles up and toasted. And they were like, all right, mission's up for tomorrow. Go check the board.
Yeah.
But he said, you know, they said, how can you be like that? You guys are, like, cheering. You know, you guys are, like, toasting each other, and you're acting good. And he said, there's no time for tears. We're on mission. He goes, but when I get back, I'm gonna bawl my eyes out. He said, but now, you know, so what I learned from that is, like, this tough, you know, company commander, you know, young, I think he was like 26, you know, like company commander in 10th Group, is, like, talking about something very real. Like, in order to be the ultimate professional, we have to go out there and do our job, but when we get back, it's okay to admit you have those weaknesses and that you're suffering, that you're hurting. It's not even a weakness. It's just having feeling.
But
you know?
It's not a weakness at all. But the other side to that is when you get so used to it. You know, you're so used to it, and you literally, like, I had forgot how to grieve, man.
Yeah.
Like, I literally had no clue how to grieve anybody.
Wow.
I mean, and when you think about it, you know, it's like, what does that even mean? Well, what I'm telling you is, like, I didn't know how to grieve. You know, I didn't know how to cry. I'd never cried.
Wow.
You know, it's like,
was that a callousness that you'd built up?
It was more of a defense mechanism, man.
Yeah.
Because To tell you the truth, what I learned through my therapy is I wanted myself to feel the pain that the guys that got all jacked up and aren't still here, to feel their pain that they shouldn't have felt, you know?
Yeah.
And what, like my psychologist said, is a lot of guys, it's the same way. We don't realize it, but we're doing that.
Yeah.
We're putting ourselves through this stuff because we have some kind of guilt, even though none of it was our fault.
Right.
But we rationalize it that way.
Yeah.
And then, you know, I knew I was jacked up after that when I'd be like sitting in the living room watching TV, and the next thing you know, I'm tearing up.
Yeah.
And I'm literally the guy that people's like, that dude don't even have feelings. You know?
Yeah, yeah.
But, you know, like I try to tell guys now, you know, it's okay to grieve, man. It's okay to, you know, face your feelings and face your demons.
Yeah.
But you don't have to do it alone. But the one thing you do have to do is you have to take the step on your own.
Yeah.
You know, because it takes guts to do that, and nobody's going to do it for you.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and just to let people know, I mean, the degree of toughness out there for me, you know, I served for 6 years, but I could tell you guys like Mac, a guy like Mac, he would have scared the living daylights out of me, and I would have literally made sure I was a sham expert, brother. Let me tell you, son,
yeah.
I was an E4 Mafia leader.
Yeah.
Like, I would have given myself at least 10,000 meters between us and some foliage and camouflage, and, you know, like, you know, I knew how to get away. But so I know your toughness level. I mean, I've seen it even in the past few days. I know what kind of sergeant major you are. And you're not, well, I mean, no sergeant major is really the one to mess with, but you're definitely not the one to mess with.
You know.
And I get that feeling. But let me tell you, I respect that you can talk about these things because it's so important. If I talk about it, guys are like, well, yeah, Tim, we know you're a unicorn. That's how you
Yeah.
That's how you are. But with you, it's like, dang, man, even him being able to admit that, like, that's strong.
It took more guts to face it than it did to not face it.
Yeah.
And it's in some ways, you know, it's easier for me because I went from one deployment to the next, to the next, to the next. And my first deployment, I was a staff sergeant, so I was a more mature guy. And that's like I got asked to go speak at the National VA DOD Suicide Conference back in August, and they wanted me to talk about the burden of decision making as a leader in combat.
Mm-hmm.
And I told them I didn't want to talk about that. What I wanted to talk about was the burden of making decisions as a young kid in combat. You know, for me, all that stuff's really hard, and I was always a leader in combat, so I have a lot of guilt up there, and I have a lot of pain. But and the guilt being not that anybody did anything wrong, the guilt being that I'm still here after all that, and they're not.
Yeah.
You know, and you don't realize you have that until you actually go through it, and you think you're just pissed off or whatever. I talked to, you know, at that conference, and I told them, you know, I was like, we're the best advocates for everybody else, but not ourselves.
Yeah.
And actually, who cued me in to remember to say that was Master Sergeant Leroy Petrie.
Yeah.
But I was talking.
Leroy's a great one.
Yes, he is.
Yeah.
He's an amazing, amazing soldier.
When I think of examples in humility, that is the one guy I think of.
He should be the guy in there with the picture saying, be like this guy.
Yeah, encyclopedia, humility, there you go.
Right there.
Yeah.
But, you know, I talked to him, and what I wanted him to understand was, you know, as a leader in combat, you have an expectation that you're going to have to make calls and bad shit's going to happen sometimes.
Yeah.
Because it's combat.
Yeah.
And you know you're going to have to live with it. But what we don't teach our soldiers is, you know, we always teach them battle drills. Know how to be a rifleman, know how to be this, know how to be that. But when you take into account tactical directives, rules of engagement, and everything else, and then all that's got to go through that kid's head before he makes a decision on the ground. And then if he does make a decision on the ground and something bad happens, even though it was no fault of his, he's got to live with that for the rest of his life. And what do we do to help him live with that?
Yeah.
You know, what happens when that kid gets back from deployment and he decides to get out because that deployment really sucked and everything else?
Mm-hmm.
We give him an award, shake his hand, give him a high five, and say peace out.
Yeah.
And then we're worried about filling
Enjoy
the
your
slot.
life. Yeah.
So like I told him, you know, what are we doing to make sure that they're able to deal with that? To know that, hey, man, you made a decision. And, you know, whether you shot the car or not, and then it was a bomb and it blew people up, you were doing what you were supposed to do.
Right.
And you had to make that decision.
Mm-hmm.
But it's and then there's another piece to it too that I talked to him about. Imagine you're a Sergeant First Class and you're 3-time combat deployed veteran, and your wife cheats on you or something like that.
Yeah.
And you go out and you have a few drinks, and the next thing you know, you get a DUI.
Yeah.
What happens?
Yeah.
You get kicked out.
Yep.
But what are we doing to make sure you're okay as you're getting kicked out?
Yeah.
Jack and
Yeah.
so
True.
what do we do to set those guys up for success?
Yeah.
I mean, they busted their the whole career and then they make a mistake.
Yeah.
And you got guys like me pulling them in, telling them you're a piece of you're better than that, blah. You know how we do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And but at the end of the day, in the back of your mind as a senior guy, you're like, he just made a mistake, man.
Yeah. Could have been me.
Yeah. And then and then you have to be the guy to tell him when his whole life was being a soldier.
Yeah.
That because he had a lapse in judgment, a lapse in discipline, that it's all over.
Yeah.
And then he gets out, and then what does he do? Turns to drugs, turns to alcohol,
Yeah.
turns all that. Next thing you know, that's one of the guys that offs himself.
Yeah.
What do we do to help those guys also? It's not just the ones that, are having issues from deployment, but it's also guys that have been deployed and everything else, and they got all that, and then they have a bad situation, and the next thing you know, they made one bad mistake, and they're done.
That's a brilliant point. Not one I've really thought about either.
Yeah, I mean, people don't, and those guys, they made a mistake.
Yeah.
They stepped on a crank.
Mm-hmm.
But they still served their country, and they served it honorably.
Yeah, and I would take it even one step further than that. You got a lot of guys that come into the Army as troubled guys.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that because they're loyal and they're great soldiers, it doesn't mean that they're just going to become instantly great human beings.
Yeah, they're not.
They're not.
Yeah.
And like, the punishment is, something that has to happen, but also expecting them to be like morally and ethically upright at all times. Hey man, it ain't happening. Like, I know, I saw it, That, so like, to not have a cushion there for them when they mess up is like, it's crazy. Like,
yeah. I mean, it's a, it got to the point to where it's like a zero defect.
Yeah.
But you're supposed to make mistakes back here so you don't make them in combat.
Oh yeah.
And
Definitely.
I mean, and if you do make a mistake, you have a lapse in judgment. Okay, you pay the consequences, but then it's over.
Yeah.
I mean.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think of that story of, Adam Brown in Fearless. I don't know if you ever read that book, but I think he had he had racked up like 25 possible felony charges, and the judge, on drugs, on hard drugs and like sales and all that. And the judge was finally like, if you join this Christian outreach group, we'll let you go and we'll erase all this.
Yeah.
And but he gave him a chance to redeem himself.
Yeah.
And what happened to Adam Brown probably became arguably one of the best SEALs of our generation.
Yeah.
That's that kind of cushion enabled him
to
still be great.
But at the same time, he knew that was his one shot.
Of course, yeah.
Just
Absolutely.
like if you're that guy that got a DUI and I can't pull you in, and I'm like, that's it.
Yeah, that was your gimme.
Now this is what's happening. You're not going to be a Sergeant First Class anymore. You may make Sergeant First Class again, but it's going to take you a long time.
Right.
But you still have the opportunity to redeem yourself and do your job and stay in the military.
Yeah.
But it's not even the fact that, you get kicked out. It's the fact that we put these guys through all these situations, but we have no way to make sure that they're squared away for the outside world.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, we do our little transition stuff, but it doesn't really do much for you,
It's not enough.
Yeah.
No.
So what I tell you is, and I'm still trying to get good at it, and I'm terrible at it, but I know what really helps, man. And it's actually worked for me a couple times. Is we always tell guys, if you're having issues, man, reach out.
Yeah.
But if you're not having issues, reach out.
Yeah.
If you're doing good, man, just reach out to some of your buddies you haven't talked to in a long time, because one of them, you never know, because this happened to me. One of them will tell you, I'm not doing too good, man.
Yeah.
Because he'll finally have somebody contact him that he trusts.
I guarantee if I went into my guys on my unit and Facebook messaged every one of them right now, there would be somebody in that group that's real jacked up right now.
And he's waiting for that.
Yeah.
Because he's not gonna hit you up.
Nope.
And he's gonna look like everything's fine on Facebook, smiling with the family and all. But just like my buddy, I hit him up, had him come do a Spartan race with me and stuff. And that weekend, he was like, "Man, I'm in a bad place, dude."
Yeah.
He's like, "I don't know what it was, God or whatever, because I was literally about to do it, man. And then you called." But sometimes that's all it takes,
Yeah.
you know?
You saved his life in that moment, and you don't think of it that way,
No.
but you did.
Yeah, you don't think of it that way. You're just reaching out to an old buddy.
Yeah.
You know, but I mean, it's, and the other thing, I know we got on the kind of morbid subject, but like,
Well, it's important to
Yeah,
talk
it is.
about these things.
me, when I was younger, man, I thought suicide was being a coward,
Yeah.
you know? I thought it was totally being a coward and everything else. And then after I've learned and grown and had so many guys that work for me and guys that have offed themselves, what I know is these guys get lost and they can't find their way back out.
Yeah.
And then it gets so painful that they make that one rash decision and it's too late,
Yeah.
you know?
My best friend from my unit, one of the toughest, bravest guys I've ever known, served in the Marine Corps before the Army, and just a hard guy. But he could not shake that feeling that he lost himself after he took off the uniform. I
Yeah.
mean, he was a shell of himself when he got out of the military. I remember thinking, what happened to Sergeant Chick? Like what happened to him?
Well,
you know?
well, you know, man, they guys get out and they think the grass is going to be greener. They go back home and yes, people, you know, families there, people love them and everything,
Mhm.
but they still feel alone because
Yeah.
they don't have you.
Yeah.
They don't have their platoon sergeant. They don't have somebody telling them what time to be wearing, what uniform to wear, and they don't have the structure anymore, and they don't have the support. And then they feel like, and this is just my experience from talking to a lot of my soldiers from over the years, is they feel like, yeah, their families, you know, want to know,
Yeah.
but for one, they don't want to tell them, and two, if they did, they'd have no clue what they're talking about.
Right.
You know?
Very true.
Yeah, so.
So, you know, Mac, we've talked a lot about, obviously, you know, we've talked quite a bit about your time in combat and what it was like overseas for you. A long and illustrious career, obviously capped off with the being command sergeant major, and serving in that role. What was reintegration like for you and getting out of the military?
Well, I tell you, you know, as with a lot of guys who, you know, their whole adult life is service, you know, when you're getting ready to transition, you go through a lot of stuff goes through your head, man, and you're thinking, you know, I'm tired right now. This is going to be good for me, you know, like it's going to be a different change. It's going to be good, you know. So you try to figure out, yeah, I'm going to get out. What am I going to do next? What's going to be my new job? What's going to be my new career? And what I found with my transition, man, is I retired and I immediately went to work. But I went to work, you know, I was working with a nonprofit. I went just straight nonstop work, a lot of travel, and what I didn't do was I didn't actually, you know, take time to kind of take a step back and decompress and kind of just, you know, figure out how I'm going to actually, you know, for lack of a better term, ingest my new environment, you know, like figure out, you know, how am I going to survive in this environment based off of what I've been before. And the reason I say that is because, you know, I was in a nonprofit, the Independence Fund. They do a lot of great stuff. And, you know, I was doing a lot of stuff for a lot of people and hanging out, you know, with some really great guys and a lot of my guys who they helped in the past. But what I didn't do was continue to ensure that I was where I needed to be to keep moving forward. So, like, when I got ready to retire, we kind of briefly hit on it before, but, you know, I was having issues. I was angry and stuff, you know, because I thought it was all stress from retiring and, you know, changing my life. You know, it's a different lifestyle. Everything's going to be different. But what I did want to do is I didn't want to be, I don't know, you know, it might make sense to some people, it might not, but I did not want to be your typical retired senior enlisted guy that walks around still having a high and tight and still, you know, wearing his rank on his sleeve and not being that guy that kids could come talk to, you know. Like, I did not want to be the guy working at CIF saying, I'm a command sergeant major, you know, because what does that even matter?
Yeah, right.
In the grand scheme of things, you know, what I wanted is I wanted to figure out a way that I could just feel happy inside, you know, because what I learned, and And I talked briefly, my best friend in the world, Santos Cavazos, and my wife, they had that little intervention before I retired and told me I needed to talk to somebody, which I did. But what I learned, man, is you gotta continue, you gotta push forward, and you gotta fix yourself. I found that even, I was doing this great thing with this nonprofit and all, but I just was not happy inside. I could put on a happy face all day long, but I was not happy,
Yeah.
And it wasn't anybody's fault. It wasn't the job. It wasn't anything. It was the fact that I didn't know how to be happy.
Right.
And I look back on it, and at first I blamed it for moving in the civilian sector and being a civilian now and not having, the hard chargers to yell at all the time and do all that stuff. But when I look back on it, man, I hadn't been happy for years because I didn't know how to be. And a lot of that was because I felt like I didn't deserve to be happy because, as an old man in the profession I was in and everything I've seen, I was still alive. I still have all my body parts, and there's a lot of kids that aren't.
Yeah.
And
that last deployment, and one of those, that second to last deployment you went through was incredibly difficult.
Yes.
You lost a lot of guys.
Yeah.
So that had to weigh on your mind.
Yeah, it was really rough, man. And you don't realize how you rationalize things, and you don't really realize what you're doing to yourself inside until you actually take a step out and look at yourself. And a lot of us guys, we don't know how to do that because we're so focused on looking at everybody else and making sure they're squared away.
Right. Yeah, is that difficult as you were obviously in a super high rank as Command Sergeant Major in the 82nd Airborne. In that rank at the battalion level, is it easy to lose sight of your own issues, of your own things going on in your life?
Yeah, very, very easy, man. It's you got the mission, you got your soldiers, you got your paratroopers, and you have that, and you use that as an excuse as I don't have time,
Yeah.
I don't have time to fix myself. I got to get out here, so lock that back up and don't think about it,
Right.
But I will tell, some people listening and hopefully they listen to an old guy, I mean, I'm old for the Army, but I'm not old in the civilian world.
Exactly.
You got to take that step back, man, and look inside your soul and find that empty place, and you got to figure out how you can start filling it. And for me, I thought it would be just getting out, working around wounded guys and everything, which was good, but at the same time, I wasn't happy with myself, so I wasn't giving them as much as I think I could have. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Got to fix your own issues before you start fixing somebody else's.
Yeah, so I had to, look at myself, take a step back, and then figure out, I need to decompress. I need to look at myself. I need to fix, what's going on, and I need to find a place and find a way to be happy. And by that I mean, obviously I love my family very much. I love my friends, my brothers, sisters, everything. But there's still a part of you, because of all the bad stuff that you go through and you've seen, you learn to make yourself not happy inside,
right?
At the soul. And a lot of it is because of the guilt that we all deal with, because we're taught, we're still here. So obviously somebody did something jacked up because somebody else got messed up, and then you figure out a way without even knowing that you're doing it to blame yourself. And then while you're doing that, you're just putting pain inside of you because you want to feel pain. And you feel guilty if you did feel happy, and I can tell you from my experience, that's the real deal, man. And people ask me, what do you want to do? What's your goals? And I'll tell you, I got one goal, man. It's be a happy old guy.
Sounds like a pretty good goal.
Yeah, like I equate it to, people always ask me, what do you mean? I'm like, I don't want to be Clint Eastwood in Gran Torino. I mean, seriously.
I could somehow picture you.
Oh, I know. I could do that, but I want to,
Yeah.
And if there's young guys listening, they're still in the military and all, us old sergeants majors, and, when we were first sergeants, and, we were a-holes.
Mm-hmm.
But, that's part of the job. That's part of the gig.
Right.
You got to be that guy. And that is tiring, man.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it's very tiring, and a lot of guys, they think we just love that,
Yeah.
which sometimes is fun. Don't get me wrong, but
We'll preface that with saying yes, it can be fun sometimes.
I'll tell you, man. You know, and I realize, you know, for myself being a senior guy, transitioning and you know finding myself having issues, I can imagine what it's like to be that kid that has 3 years in, and you know one of those years is a deployment. Then, like we said earlier, you know, next thing you know, he's at home, and he may not be alone, but he is alone.
He's alone in his soul.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And, you know, Mac, I think having a great network is also part of that. You know, you were very fortunate to come home to a very supportive wife and, you know, lovely daughters and, you know, have that, you know, that support network. But at the same time, you're making the very real point that that's not all, though. You know, you could be in a situation, you know, like I said, my best friend had a wonderful wife and 2 kids, man, and he still took his own life, you know. So that's not the end-all, be-all, of course.
No.
And so where did that fix come from? You know, I mean, I'm sure there's still a struggle nowadays at times, but where do you feel your peace from? Where does your peace ascend from?
Well, I can tell you a lot of my peace, man, and some of you out there will relate to this, is for the longest time I couldn't face some of my troops that were wounded, you know. I talked to them on Facebook and stuff like that, but I felt so guilty that I couldn't face them face to face. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, I was their boss and I was responsible.
And you know that being in the 82nd Airborne, such an illustrious unit, you know, serving in the command over paratroopers in one of the most violent parts of Afghanistan, if not the most violent, and losing guys, you know, being down to 19 per platoon, you know, at one point in time, you know that that's part of your service at 82nd Airborne, but the actual facing the reality of that is completely different, right?
Yeah, it's you think you're ready for it, you think you understand it, and then you deal with it. You know, like me, I've always considered myself a tough guy, but you know, I was so scared to face those guys because like I said, bad things are going to happen in combat. And no matter how squared away you are, you're going to have bad stuff happen. You rationalize it by, we should have done this or we should have did that. And, you know, and all of those guys, every single one of them missing limbs and, you know, killed and everything that's on me, man. You know, this is the way I felt. And I didn't know how to face them, you know. And what was really hard was facing a couple of the families of my guys who were killed. And I'll tell you, what really helped me was one of my soldiers. He was a great paratrooper and just a tough kid. Joe Caron, his dad, I went up to Washington State, and his dad, you know, he called me, and there was no way I could tell him no to go see Joe's grave. And he brought Joe's little sister with him. And what Jeff, what Jeff did that day, because he was a former soldier himself, you know, 101st guy, is he told me, he's like, Sergeant Major, it's okay, man. He died doing what he loved. Only thing he cared about was being a paratrooper and being with you guys, and we all knew what could happen. He's like, don't blame yourself, don't blame your soldiers, just like he talked about his squad leader, you know, because his squad leader blamed himself. It's not about blame, it's about remembering and continuing to stay close with the guys who are still here to remember the guys that aren't. And we got a question here. I put you on the live here. Oh, okay.
So, yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Surprise, surprise.
Yeah.
The Veterans Project podcast, where the host always disappoints you by telling you later that you're live.
Yeah, there you go.
So, you know, Vegas Strong Inc., who has been following the project for quite some time. I do remember our followers pretty well.
Yeah.
Got to do the inner work. Curious to see what worked for you in particular.
Yeah. Well, the inner work for me, man, is I'll tell you, for one, you know, you gotta find that happy place, that place that kind of gives you, I don't know, like your daily recharge, but it also helps you kind of look inside yourself and realize that, hey, you know, this is actually feeling it a little bit. You know, it's actually making me feel kind of happy.
Yeah.
You know, and it's not about, you know, being cool or any of that stuff. Like for me, there's a couple things that just really have helped me out tremendously. And one, it's lifting weights.
Yeah.
You know, I go and I throw in my death metal because I'm a huge metalhead. And
I've learned that over the past couple weeks.
Yeah, metal helps me as well. But what really helps, man, is having that meditation time. And by meditation time, I think, it's the only time of the day when I throw that music in that I don't think about anything else from the outside world. I just think about myself.
Yeah.
And I always lift weights, and then at the end of my workout, I'll go sit in the sauna for 30 minutes. And because I'm old now, like I said, I don't run as much as I used to. But I sit there, and what I do is I just kind of I think about things, and I just do a little soul searching, and then I look at myself, and I'm like, what am I going to do tomorrow? What can I do to just be productive and make myself feel like that, I have a reason for being here. And it's not, we all have a reason for being here because of our families and everything, but for what we've done and what we've seen in our guys that are still not here, man, we owe it to ourselves to be here, because they're not here, and they would want us to be here. So, you got to take something that just helps you recharge. Like for me, I throw tomahawks, I lift weights, and I listen to heavy metal music, and those are the times that it's just me,
And you act.
Yeah. Yeah, now I'm an actor. But what I'm saying is, it's, a lot of people work out and stuff, and that's great, and that's awesome, do whatever you want to do. But
right.
When I lift weights, when I work out by myself because it's my reflection time, it's my time for me. And anything you can do like that to kind of just figure out what fills the hole in there, man. I mean, it might be playing video games. I don't care, whatever it is, but something that makes you, where you can just look at yourself. And then after I work out, I look at myself in the mirror, and I'm like, did I push myself hard enough? And then I feel like I'm about to die, and I know I did.
Yeah. There you go.
But yeah, that really helps me a lot.
We had another question come in that was pretty good.
Right.
He said, hey, CSM, do you have any books, podcasts, or other resources that keep you motivated nowadays?
Yeah, well, my resources that keep me motivated for real is, and I'll tell you the truth, man. I don't listen to a lot of podcasts and stuff.
You will be listening to this one.
No, but what I'm saying is I've been on quite a few.
Yeah, of course.
But it's at the end of the day, you can get motivation from books and listening to people, but my motivation truly stems from getting out and being around the guys and talking to guys, and I've had people tell me over the years, you should write a book. Well, I don't know how to write a book, but what I do know how to do is I know how to get out there and hang with the guys and do shit, and what motivates me, man, is the drive to hopefully, I guess the way I kind of look at it is a lot of people that know me know what I've been through. People that don't really know what I've been through. But when I get messages on Facebook or Instagram and stuff like that, and they're like, hey, man, I was hurting real bad, but, I saw your post and I went and got in the gym. What motivates me is just knowing that there are dudes out there motivating themselves.
Yeah.
I don't fanboy out on any of the podcasts or any of that stuff. I never have. I've listened to some. I've been on some. And they're great. But at the end of the day, you got to, take what you can from them, but you got to motivate yourself, man. You got to figure out how to be disciplined and do what's right for you.
Yeah. That's good. Obviously we're on set, we're soon to be. We've got, you're acting in this film that's coming out, Stephen Graham, director, very talented guy. And Nate Boyer, producer, one of my really good friends and a guy who brought us all together. And this idea of bringing veterans on set, like bringing veterans into the arts and bringing veterans on set. We've been out here for the past couple of weeks making a pretty awesome movie. What has been your experience so far being on this set? And has this been helpful for you and for your purpose, for your sense of purpose?
Yeah, man. I mean, when Steven first hit me up this past summer about this, he called me at like midnight and he's like, hey, man, I got this idea. He's like, you don't have to do it, but I think you would be perfect for it. And so, yeah, I was like, I met Steven a few years back at a veterans event. We had a bunch of wounded guys out doing a hog hunt, and met him, and I was like, yeah, this dude's cool, you know. And then I recognized him from White Chicks. But you know, we became buddies, and we've done a lot of stuff. You know, he's been to a lot of events, veteran events. He even went to a big event we had with Jose Mangan from Liquid Metal out in Seal Beach, and the rock band Otherwise to help guys. But yeah, when he hit me up, you know, I was like, dude, I'm not an actor, man.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, but you got a presence, you know. And
Yeah.
but I looked at it and I was like, yeah, dude, you know, if you ask me to do something, I'm gonna do it. And I was like, it's gonna be a challenge, but the way I looked at it is that's one more piece to the, you know, to getting different experiences and kind of figuring out what I want to do as I grow up.
Right.
And I'll tell you, the experience I've had since I've been out here, yeah, we've been freezing our butts off.
We have. Fact.
But, you know, I've been around some really great people. I've got to make some really good friends like you, Tim. You know, you're a brother for life now. You know that. But
yeah, I agree.
But you know, I mean, it's such a cool experience in kind of seeing how this process works.
Right.
It's not like what most of us think, where somebody's just got a camera following you around. But
isn't that crazy too?
Yeah.
Like how
oh
much?
my God.
I mean, you know, I obviously I went and got my bachelor's in digital media film, so I've been on sets before. But for those of people who step on a set, you do not realize how much work. You know, there's always work, there's always drama, there's always stuff going on, you know, that just kind of blows your mind. I mean, these days are long days. Like,
yes,
you're a command sergeant major. Like, you know what hard work is.
Yes.
But this is, you will verify, Don, that this is hard work, right?
This is really hard work.
Yeah.
A lot goes into it. A lot of people work their butts off. A lot more than the actors do, to tell you the truth about it.
Yeah.
And you know, but I'll tell you, man, it's one more of those things to where it's a challenge, but it's got me around really good people, and it's another way. The way I kind of looked at it was another way for me to kind of to be more, I guess, out there in the open for more guys to approach me and talk to me and ask me questions and you know, and just, I mean, excuse my language, but yeah, you know, I like, it's like, this thing here is, it's so amazing because it's been a total challenge for me. And I thought the acting part would be, you know, kind of difficult figuring that out, but it's the physicality, especially of the stuff I've been doing, which we're not going to talk about too much of it. We don't want to give it away.
Can't give it away.
But it's the hours, all the stuff, you know, we've been helping the crew out and everything, and just seeing the process. It almost feels like when we're sitting at headquarters here that we're deployed.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It almost does. But it's going to be a great thing, and I'm so honored that, you know, Steven and Nate, you know, brought me onto this, and, you know, and we had Rudy, and, you know, and
how good was that camaraderie, by the way? You know, we're all chilling out, we're all hanging out.
Yeah.
It was your first time meeting Rudy. Colorful.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mr. Rudy himself, you know, we had a colorful experience.
Yeah.
We get to spend all this time in the house together, on set together, get to see all the different personalities.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you know, we're all kind of looking at each other like, yeah, we here though.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
me, you, Nate, Rudy, we're like, yeah, we're really doing this.
Yeah, we're really doing this, and the civilians on set sometimes don't know how to take it.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, we have.
They're just like, wait, can we laugh at that?
Yeah. They're like, those guys are pretty dark. Yeah. Their humor is crazy. But y'all know veteran humor. But but yeah, man, this is an amazing journey, and I'm super excited about it. And like I said, you know, I'm not looking at being some big A-list actor or anything, but what I figured this would help with is, you know, when it comes out, that's just one more piece to kind of get out there and let people see, hey, man, you know, go do stuff, man. Do what makes you happy.
And we'll be for sure, you know, as the movie starts getting wrapped and everything, we start, you know, getting closer to actual production and getting pushed out. We'll be promoting that for sure at the Veterans Project, because we've gotten to be a part of this, and we've gotten to see a lot of what Nate's trying to do with this, you know, idea with having a veteran production company and involving people who a lot of people don't otherwise think is artistic, but are incredibly artistic.
Yeah.
Very hardworking. You know what's funny is on set, it's almost like in a way, like everybody pictures this very like artsy, background. But dude, this is one of the most industrious professions you can be in.
Yeah.
Besides actually being on camera, like the behind the camera stuff is so industrious.
Yes, it is.
You have to know how to build. You have to know how to work sets, especially when your budget isn't quite what you want it to be. Like there is so much that goes into production on the set. I mean, dude, we've been seeing guys that are 20 years old, 25 years old, that are geniuses that are just figuring things out every second.
Well, it's kind of like being an infantryman. You're a jack of all trades, but master of none yet. You know?
Very true.
And in this business, the only way I see that you would become a master of that trade is with the experience, just like in the infantry.
Yeah, I mean that's so important. And I think in the art space, one thing that I've noticed with Nate, knowing him over the past few years and everything, is like it's always you're never completely there. You're never completely satisfied.
No.
You're always working for that next project. So, there will be the accomplishment of this. We wrap that, but then there's the production part. There's actually figuring out how to distribute the movie, get it out there to the world. But, this has been, I will say, from my own side, because I do want to speak from my own side too, that this has been an incredible experience. It's been mind-blowing. I've gotten a lot of, I've just had a lot of constructive education in how this all goes down, and understanding of watching veterans on set and how well we can do on set as well. And all those things that Nate had described to me in the past about, even on the podcast, about how, timeliness and attention to detail, all those things are so important, and I'm seeing more and more how veterans can be very productive on these sets.
Yeah, and and veterans, from all walks, we have that make it happen mentality,
Yeah.
Gripe and complain about it once it's done. But when it's go time, it's go time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that, this experience as a whole has been incredibly productive, of course. Your scenes have been amazing. And for those of you that, don't know what we're talking about, kind of in the dark, you will come to understand what we're talking about. But Mac has been excellent. I mean, this is his first real acting gig. And I'm not saying this to say this, because I've seen some really good actors perform at very high levels. Mac has done an incredible job in a very physical environment at doing things that a lot of people would not be comfortable with. And I think that goes back to your time as being a command sergeant major, being in how many incredibly uncomfortable positions have you been in throughout your Army career?
Oh my God.
I mean, more often than not, right?
Yeah. It's countless. I mean,
it even comes down to the things like asking, though, right? Like people are you sure you're comfortable doing this? And you're like, are you kidding me?
Yeah, I'm like, really? Yeah, nah, this is too easy, man. Come on.
You want me to be a little cold for a little while? I got this.
Yeah, I can suck it up, man. I'll be all right. I'm going to a heater later. Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah, we didn't get the heaters back when we were in.
No, I'm like, I get to go sleep in a bed tonight. Yeah, what do you need me to do?
We're good.
Yeah, we're good, dude.
Yeah, and that stuff really does come to light here on set, man. It's very important that we have that attitude.
Yeah.
How, after seeing this, what do you think veterans bring to the table that is so important? I know we discussed a little bit, but what do you think?
I think what could really help, seeing what's going on with, this production. Obviously, I'm not experienced in movie making or anything, but I am experienced with managing people.
Right.
And what veterans could really, really bring to a project like this is the structure is there, but it's enforcing the structure, reinforcing the structure, making sure that, that all these gates are kept and that everybody's where they need to be at the right time, at the right place. And that if you're a veteran and you're given a job, then you're going to ensure that that job's done 100% to the best of your ability, and you're not going to gripe and complain about it. Like I said, when it's all over, you might.
Yeah.
But when it's go time, you're not.
Right.
Because you got to make it happen.
Yeah.
But the other piece to that is you bring a, veterans would, especially if you get a group of veterans together, even coming from all different services and everything, the work ethic is there's no time to not do it.
Right.
We got to get it done. We have a timeline. We know it. We know it's got to be done. So let's just get it done, man. And I'm not saying that the civilians and everything that work on these sets aren't the same way, but the difference is the sense of urgency.
Right.
Because for us, we're taught that time is life and death, man. So you got to make it freaking happen.
Oh,
so
you don't
get it done.
You don't walk going anywhere.
No, you make it happen.
Yeah.
So it's about a sense of urgency, but it's also bringing a little more structure and a little more motivation, I think.
Yeah. I think we've seen that a lot here, Mac, in industrious, hardworking behaviors. How many times have you and I pointed at each other and go, I do that.
Yeah.
Or, I think we could do that.
Yeah, this would be easier if you
did it this way. Yeah.
But
and that's not a knock on anybody on set. It's just little things that can be improved throughout. I mean, this thing has been incredible.
Yeah.
A lot of hardworking characters, act on camera and off camera. But it is those little intangibles, right? Where you're like, all right, I know what this takes.
Yeah.
Like, I could see what it takes.
Well, it's the simple thing of, you're out there looking and it's got to be done within the next 30 minutes, but nobody's doing it.
Yeah. Exactly.
And I will say, there's some people out there, well, that's easy to say. Yeah, it's always easy on the outside looking in. It's easier when you're out there being the armchair quarterback. But the difference is, when we're sitting there, we're not speaking from, not knowing. We're looking at the situation and we're like, this could be so much more efficient.
Yeah. And it's an obvious fix.
Yeah,
like,
obvious.
It's an obvious fix that, could be placated. And also, like the whole worrying about people's feelings and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, that doesn't exist. Like, I think if I had a production set, and this is, no knock on anybody directing or producing out there, but I think I would have a waiver that signs like a hurt feelings clause. Like, during this production of this, I will say things that may drive you insane, but you're going to do it or you'll simply be gone. Like,
well, the other piece to it, man, is like, we're used to being direct.
Very.
So if it's like, if I'm there and I need this done, I'm saying go do it now. I don't have time to discuss it.
Yeah.
And you're not going to get butthurt by me saying that.
Mm-hmm.
You're just going to go do it, and you're probably in the back of your mind, man, that dude's such an a-hole. But you're going to do it.
You're still going to do it
because that's your work ethic. Because that's who you are.
Yeah.
And you're not going to let it affect you. But in a world where, for lack of a better term, there are not a lot of meat eaters out there.
Mm-hmm.
People, they want to get things done and they want to do it, but they either don't know how to be direct or they can't take someone being direct with them.
Yes.
Like if I'm too direct with someone and then, like you said, all of a sudden they think that I hate them or I'm really mad at them and all this stuff. And it's not at all. It's like, this needs to get done. Do it now.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk about it anymore.
Yeah.
It's like, that's not anger. Like I told people. And then we talked about it too, what happens when you're on like a set like this and something happens and somebody has to raise their voice to get something done.
Yeah.
They're not mad at you. They're mad at the situation. They want to fix the situation.
Yes.
And people can't get past that. They think it's personal and it's not.
Yeah.
It's just business, man.
No, I mean, that's something that, I think I was like mistook my footing or something on the set one day. It's like, as the photographer and then shooting behind the scenes photos. And I think I stepped out a little too far on like one of the edges or something. And I think I made some like footprints where I shouldn't have.
Yeah.
And like DP Logan was like, hey bro, like, hey dude, don't step over there. Come on, man. And like pulls me back. Dude, I wasn't offended in the least, bro. I was like, oh, cool. Like, I was an idiot right there, so I probably need to not step over there. Like,
and Logan was just doing his job and trying to make it happen.
5 minutes later, Logan and I are like, like smoking and joking. You know, like it's all
because it's
good.
not you; it's the situation.
It's the situation. He's trying to get the best possible shot he can. He's concerned about the overall scene. He doesn't have time for idiots stepping into frame. Like, he's got to make sure that everything is properly cut. But you might say that to somebody, and they carry that grudge for like 3 hours or 4 or the rest of the day or the rest of the shoot. Like, You just cannot.
No.
And stuff has to get done with a sense of urgency. I think those are the best run crews, and the majority of that, what we've seen from this crew has been good. Has been people taking instruction. Okay, Steven yells something out as director, like, it's gonna get done. All right, it's all good. Happened in the moment. I have to handle it now. And guess what? After that, we can all hang out and be cool, and it's all good.
Yeah, it's not personal, man. It's business.
Absolutely. We've had a great podcast here, Don, and, I'm very appreciative of you coming on. The perspective of Command Sergeant Major, now involved in the arts and, owning your own, clothing store now and getting to do stuff there, with Rogue American out in, at Bragg. Is there anything that you want to speak to particularly, and was there anything that you wanted to talk about specifically to kind of close things out?
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about the veteran suicide issue, but more importantly than that, man, like I said, we all get out when we get out of the military. You got to make a living. You got to pay your bills. You got to do everything, man. But from a dude who's seen a lot of. If you're not happy doing what you're doing, man, do it until you can find something that does make you happy, And then the other thing, man, is don't ever forget where you came from. You could be the CEO of whatever company, you could be the A-list actor or whatever, but never forget where you came from, never forget your roots, and don't forget your buddies. And then, man, take a step back, regardless if you're a veteran, civilian, first responder, whatever. Everybody has issues, man. Just take a step back and look at yourself, man, and just get out there and do some high speed stuff and, make yourself feel good. And be yourself, be who you are, and don't give a what anybody else thinks. Focus on you, focus on what's right, and just be yourself, man. We're too worried about what everybody else is doing and all that. Mm-hmm. Focus on you, man. Because if you focus on you, everything else is going to fall into place. And then I'll give another quick plug too. The Independence Fund and the VA have put together a program called Operation Resiliency. They are looking for units that have been in real hard combat fights, man, to conduct these really amazing reunions. And all you need to do is, if you're command of one of those units, company size, battalion size, if you're the command, Command Sergeant Major, battalion commander, company commander, reach out to the Independence Fund and tell them, hey, can I get some information on this? They did that with my guys from the Arghandab back in April, and I can tell you, since then, guys have been keeping in contact. There was so much closure from a deployment 10 years ago that it's an amazing opportunity for guys out there. So I'm just throwing it out there because it is a program of record for the VA now.
Yeah.
And the way the Independence Fund is running it is really good. All nonprofits are doing like really good stuff. And I'm just saying this for that one because I've seen it personally.
Right.
And it's all expenses paid for your unit, and they're looking for units to go, but you have to reach out to them because they don't know who you are.
Right.
But yeah, that, and don't be scared to step out of your comfort bubble, man. Be happy, be a bad, get out there and do epic stuff every day. And the last thing I'd like to say, and this is probably going to hurt some feelings, but
Command Sergeant Major hurting feelings.
Well,
what?
I'm not talking like I used to. I don't have the Sergeant Major voice on. But I'll tell you this, man. Just because you joined the freaking military doesn't mean anybody owes you a thing.
Well said.
And a lot of you out there, you see all these organizations like the Independence Fund and all these nonprofits and everything. They're doing great stuff for veterans. You kind of get to where, hey, what am I going to get when I get out? Who's going to do this for me? Just remember, man, nobody owes you a thing. You signed up, you decided to do it. If somebody wants to square you away or tell you thank you for your service, be very appreciative of it. But remember, at the end of the day, the only person that owes you anything is you. And I will say one more thing about that. You do owe somebody something, and that's all your buddies that didn't make it back in one piece or didn't make it back at all. Mm-hmm. And you owe it to them to stay alive, man.
Yeah.
Don't be that guy.
Yeah.
So just from a guy who's seen a lot of, don't feel like everybody owes you something. If you get out there and work, man, great things are going to happen to you, and you can get through anything. You just gotta be willing to do it yourself, though.
Yeah, absolutely. Mac, I just got to say that, it's been an absolute pleasure. It's been an absolute pleasure getting to know you. You said earlier, brothers for life after this, but that's the truth, man. I found another selfless server, a guy who gets out there and gets after it, and who comes into a role that he was otherwise uncomfortable with, didn't know, and stepped in and did a great job with it. And that was pretty cool to see. And mostly I respect your perspective because, I never dreamed in my life that I would be having these deep, incredibly philosophical conversations with command sergeant majors and guys at such a level that did it at such a high level, when I myself, was just a guy who did one deployment and served my 6 years and got out, and so getting to spend this time with guys that I looked up to, I was definitely afraid of you, but as a command sergeant major, you guys scared me badly. But to get to hear your perspective of combat and reintegration and the arts and your comfort in developing these different levels of self, I think it's so much more impressive than what a guy like me does, because I'm so used to civilian life. I've done it for so long that it's like stepping into these roles is like pretty easy because I've been around it so often. For you, going off, as a command sergeant major, doing that for 20 plus years and serving and then retiring and then stepping into whole new realms is so complex, man. So I just want to say I respect the heck out of you for doing that. And I respect your journey and your path and where you're going now. So thank you.
Well, for me, thank you, man, because all of you guys, man, old dudes like me wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you guys. So I'm honored to know you, man, and I'm honored to know any of you out there. And, if you're out there, hit me up on the socials, man. Even if you don't know me, I'll talk to you. And
where are you at on Instagram again?
It's just Donald_Mac_McAlister.
Okay, awesome. You heard him. Hit him up.
Yeah, hit me up, man. I love talking to guys. I love getting out and doing stuff. Every year I do a few Spartan races with guys and stuff like that. I bring wounded guys in. So what keeps me alive is stuff like this, being around guys like you, Tim. Like I said, I love my family more than anything. They've always been there for me. But they know that, regardless of how old I get or what I do in the rest of my life, that I have to be around guys like you.
Right.
And I'm honored that I got to meet you out here, man, and I'm around you guys, and I'm honored that they brought me onto this, and I'm always honored and humbled to be around troops, man, because troops are why guys like me make it to where we make it to. If you guys don't do your jobs, then where are we going to be?
Absolutely.
So I really appreciate, everything you're doing with this, because this Veterans Project is super important, because you're keeping that history alive, man. You're telling stories that some people may not ever hear.
Yeah.
And that's super important, and I thank you for that. I applaud you for that, and I thank you for everything you're doing, man.
Well, thank you, man. I appreciate that. Gotta educate the Karens of the world out there.
Yeah. Karen needs some help.
And for those of you who don't understand, that'll be our little inside nugget.
Yeah.
Our little what do they call it on set? It's like the Easter egg.
Yeah, the Easter egg.
The Easter egg. That'll be our Easter egg.
Yeah.
Well, Mac, thanks for coming on. You guys know where to find him. Instagram. You've got a shop, right? Rogue American out of Bragg.
Rogue American, Fort Bragg.
Yeah, awesome. All right. Well, we appreciate you coming on, Mac. Again, thank you for your service. Thank you for your service to the civilian society now. And we appreciate you, man. And don't forget, all of you listening out there, don't forget to rate, review, subscribe to the podcast. And most of all, our legacies are the mission.
This has been the Veterans Project Podcast with our founder, Tim Kay. Check us out at www.thevetsproject.com, on Instagram @The Veterans Project, Facebook, The Veterans Project, and Twitter @Project_Veteran. Thanks for listening, and don't forget, our legacies are the mission.